let's actually get to some breaking news we can report here. We've got some breaking points power rankings. So we were so inspired by Fox News just pulling out of their ass power rankings for the Republican primary. We decided we should probably do the same thing.
Except we're not going to treat it like breaking news the way that they did. There's a level of self-seriousness.
Anyway, this is basically just our predictions of who's going to come out well out of the debate, who's going to improve their position, and who is going to do themselves damage coming out of the debate. So I will start with mine. And I think you might be a little bit surprised here because this is a bit of a hot take.
All right.
Let's go ahead and put my winners in my power rankings up on the screen.
Ooh, it's controversial.
Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, Vivek, I don't think people will be surprised because I've said before, I think he's politically talented. I think he'll be well prepared. I think he'll be unafraid of, going on the attack against Ron DeSantis. I think he'll do an effective job at that. You have a relatively low name ID for Vivek. So in a lot of ways, he has the most room to grow in terms of the candidates that will be on the stage. And so I think that he will do himself some favors tonight. However, the reason I put Ron DeSantis up there, Sagar, and I do want to say I don't have a lot of confidence in this choice, but he's got a low bar at this point. There's been so much commentary about how awkward he is and how bad he is with people and how his campaign's falling apart and whatever. I know he's going to show up really well prepared, really well scripted. I can imagine him having like the equivalent of the Kamala Harris, that little girl is me kind of a moment up there. And so I think he may do himself some good being on that stage, and he'll really be a focal point in a lot of ways. There'll be a lot of attacks coming at him, and that gives him an opportunity to parry those effectively and really try to reestablish himself as a primary serious Trump competitor. So that is why I put those two gentlemen at the top. I do want to say one other thing just in terms of how I was thinking about this. I suspect the person whose performance I will like the most is probably Christie. And I do think he's very politically talented. I think he will land his blows, etc. But this isn't about who I'm going to like because I'm not a Republican primary voter. I suspect the liberal media, CNN and MSNBC are also going to enjoy Christie's performance. As Chris Matthews told us, he's a liberal pinup boy, which was accurate.
He was right.
But, is that going to help him in terms of doing better in a Republican primary? Nah, I don't really see that.
Okay, let's see your losers, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll go over.
Okay, so let's go ahead and debut my losers here. Mike Pence and Tim Scott. So I just don't really see either of them being able to have a breakout moment. Both of their political personalities are being like the super nice guy. And for better or worse, I just don't know that that really sells. I don't think it really provides the opportunity for you to have that kind of spotlight grabbing, interesting breakout moment and assert yourself. And if you aren't moving up the rankings of being one of the top Trump alternatives, then I think, you're falling behind. And to me, it's particularly embarrassing for Mike Pence, who was the vice president. I mean, this is a man who's been in politics for so long, who does have a lot of connections, who was literally vice president of the United States for 4 years and has fallen down into, at best, a mid-tier competitor here, even in the context of a Republican primary debate without Trump. And so for him to be sidelined in this way, on such a visible performance, I think it's a real problem for him. Tim Scott, there's a lot of media hype around him at the moment. But again, I find it hard to believe that he's going to really be able to achieve any sort of a breakout moment. So I think it's tough for him too.
There you go. Okay, let's put my winners up there because I think this might surprise you. There's a little bit of a disagreement here. We have share one winner. So I've got Ramaswamy and Christie. And here's my case. I believe that this is ultimately, as I said, it's a vote for number 2. Christie is a talented debater, he's well-spoken. I believe he's going to be on the attack against Ron DeSantis. And because I don't think DeSantis has ever really been challenged at this level, particularly about being like some sort of Trump toady, Christie's going to find some knocks against him. The other reason I put Ramaswamy is I think Vivek is just far more politically talented than Ron DeSantis in a back and forth environment. He always puts himself in challenging situations. He was on our show. He was on CNN. I mean, he's constantly battling with Caitlin Collins, Don Lemon.
So he's got practice.
He knows exactly how to parry, how to get to it, about how to knock somebody's attacks against him. I think he's going to win on that front because he's also going to be on the attack against DeSantis. And I don't think DeSantis is going to be able to levy the same blows against him. Christie is likely to attack DeSantis, but he's probably going to focus more of his attack on, he's likely to attack Vivek, but more likely to focus his attack on DeSantis because he's there. Ramaswamy will be the beneficiary of that. And I think he will out-battle them, at least in a duel, whenever it comes to fights about Trump indictment, foreign policy, Ukraine. He's the best, most articulate, well-spoken person on there. It's a big performance. So this leads into my losers, and this is probably my hottest take.
Okay.
Number one, I think it's DeSantis.
Wow.
I think DeSantis is going to be the loser. He showed obviously he's had several awkward moments on the trail. Whenever he's pressed, he does get a little bit flustered. He hasn't done enough contentious interviews. He's had some decent moments in a press conference, but with the political talent of Christie and Ramaswamy going up against him, I'm just not sure that he's prepared for the moment. The reason I put Mike Pence there is the exact same analysis as you. To be the former vice president, betraying a guy like Vivek Ramaswamy who wrote a book, humiliating.
Yeah.
Humiliating. Let's be honest. I mean, this is the Al Gore thing, George H.W. Bush. This should have been his. He should be coronated. And you shouldn't even be debated.
And the Trump questions are like the most tortured for him.
Horrible.
Too.
He was there.
Everyone else has kind of either decided like, I'm just going to defend this guy or whatever, or they're willing to make the critique. Pence is still like, you can feel the anguish in every response. And yeah, it's just kind of painful.
Here's how Trump dealt with the anointed one from the royalty of the Republican family. This is how Trump dealt with him.
Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq.
While Donald Trump was building a reality TV show, my brother was building a security apparatus to keep us safe, and I'm proud of what he did. He's had the gall to go after
the World
my
Trade
mother.
Center came
He's
down
had the
during
gall
the
to go
brother's
after
reign.
my
Remember
mother.
that.
He
didn't say it.
He gives no fucks.
And that's what I should have seen Bernie Sanders do to Joe Biden.
That's right. Hang on, here we go.
Let me finish this. He's had the gall to go after my mother.
That's not keeping
Look, I
us
won
safe.
the lottery when
That's
I
not
was
keeping
born
us safe.
63 years ago and looked up and I saw my mom. My mom is the strongest woman I know.
She should
This
be
is
running.
not about my family.
My mom is the strongest woman here. She should be running. That's hilarious. That's how he dealt with the anointed fucking successor.
So would you say that he was an outsider when he was running?
Yes. You know why? Because he was an outsider. Why? Because he didn't live in fucking D.C. He didn't fucking know those people. He didn't give a shit about them. Here's how he also dealt with Ted Cruz.
You are all talk and no
Name one
action. What I've
specific thing you've
seen
done.
up here, I mean, first of all, this guy's a joke artist and this guy's a liar. You have a combination. you have a combination.
Oh, God.
Factors. You are all talk and no
Name one
action. What I've
specific thing you've
seen
done.
up here, I mean, first of all, this guy's a joke artist and this guy's a liar. You have a combination. You have a combination of factors. He can't do it for the obvious reason, and he can't do it because he doesn't know how to tell the truth.
He's beating the shit out of two guys at fucking once. He can't do it for obvious reasons, and he can't do it because he can't tell the truth.
I can't.
Bam, bam, fuck. He squashed both of them. political novice fucking game show host who's wearing a raccoon on his head, and he still beat them. Here's how Bernie Sanders dealt with someone's corruption. Here's how Bernie Sanders dealt with someone's repeated lying about top secret material, about setting up a program that she was under an FBI investigation over it. And people we know are in jail for lots less. And here's how Bernie dealt with it.
Let me say something that may not be great politics, but I think the secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too.
Now here's what somebody would say who actually wanted to become president would say. Do we really think at a time like this, when we're going up against Donald Trump, that we should be nominating someone who's under FBI investigation again? Should we really do that? Someone who has a long litany of selling influence through the Clinton Foundation to foreign governments for arms sales? Someone who's given $600,000 speeches to Walt. This is the person you wanted to go up against corruption? That's what someone would say who wanted to be president. What someone who wanted to be friends with the people after the campaign would say is what the fuck he just said. Because he don't want to be Ralph Nader. He don't even return Ralph Nader's calls since 2000. He wants to be someone's friend. That's what a loser says. A feckless campaigner. So after Super Tuesday, all people wanted to know, people who vote in the Democratic primary, all they wanted to know was, could a Democrat be a decent person and beat Donald Trump? Can they beat Donald Trump? Well, you already know, everybody knows, the only thing people know about Bernie's campaign is that Joe Biden is his good friend. They know that. And so when asked, so if someone asks you, hey, do you think Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump? What you're supposed to say, if you want to be president, is the truth. You don't even have to lie. You tell the truth, which is, hell no. That's why I'm running. We tried this experiment before. Tried to run a Wall Street puppet who was a warmonger. Joe voted for the Iraq war and every war before and since. Look what they did to Libya. They're trying to do it to Syria. We're still in Afghanistan. Two terms, we stayed there. That's what he should say. We already tried this experiment. They lost to Donald Trump. That's why I'm running. No, of course he can't beat them. And of course, if it was me, I'd say, look at him. He's a demented walking death rattle. Can't even finish a sentence. But you don't have to say that. You don't even have to. You could say, but he doesn't look good. Joe doesn't look good. He can't finish a sentence. That's what he should say.
Yes.
So what is he going to say? He's not even going to tell you the truth. Because we all know that Joe Biden already lost to Donald Trump. Donald Trump just gave everybody Medicare for fucking coronavirus. Joe Biden still says no. Hillary Clinton says, let him buy it. We're out of bread. Let's sell him cake. Here is Bernie forfeiting the race. And as I heard, I don't know if I got this, as Glenn Greenwald would say, this is a fastball down the middle, right over the plate. This is when Bernie takes his home run swing because he sees it coming. It's a hanging curveball. Boom! He's supposed to take this fucking one and drill it. And instead, he forfeits his campaign.
Do you think, say it is Biden, do you think Biden can beat Trump?
I do.
Campaign is over.
When have you seen a presidential candidate go on a show and allow them to ask that question and then you say yes? What kind of campaign is that? What kind of nonsense is that?
That's nonsense. That is someone who
Doesn't want to win.
Let down his movement. You're letting down your movement. You're letting down people who need Medicare for all. You're letting down people who need student debt relief. You're letting down people who want a clean environment. You're letting down people who want a living wage, who want to go to you're letting down you have a responsibility to say, of course, Joe Biden's not going to beat Donald Trump. And if you guys are serious about getting rid of Donald Trump, vote for me. That's what you say. He forfeited. That's him forfeiting. Here's how Chuck Schumer forfeits and Hillary Clinton forfeits.
Every blue-collar Democrat we will lose in Western PA, we will pick up 2-3 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And you can repeat.
Candidates on stage have to do. Well, so we're going to go through each candidate and we are going to establish their goals for tonight. Now, as I say, the entire debate is going to be about attacking DeSantis, which means that basically Ron DeSantis' first kind of task here is survive. He has to make sure that he is not the person who is the subject of all the headlines tomorrow for all the attacks against him. I mean, as we are seeing in the polling data, DeSantis has been experiencing a rather marked decline in the polling data. So I said a few weeks ago that he was basically stagnant since June. Okay, but the reality is that in that Real Clear Politics polling average, he has lost momentum. If you look at that Republican nomination Real Clear Politics polling average, it shows that in April, he was at 24%. He basically maintained that all the way through June. And then since June, he has dropped in the Real Clear Politics polling average from about 24% all the way down to about 14%, which is a significant drop. By the way, that support largely went to Donald Trump. Some of it went to other candidates. A lot of it went to Donald Trump, which means that he has to do a couple of things. He has to fend off all the people who are going to be attacking him tonight, trying to kind of finish his campaign, and he has to regain his mojo. The only way to do that, truly, is that he has to make the case that Republicans have failed to make, which is why Donald Trump is leading in the polling by leaps and bounds. He has to make the case that he should be the nominee and not Trump. Okay, not Trump is part of that case. The notion that you could kind of sit aside and say, I should be the nominee and never discuss Trump, that's obviously not the case. Trump is cruising right now. So somebody's going to have to make the case as to why it shouldn't be Trump. It seems there are really only two attack lines as to why it shouldn't be Trump. Attack line number one is that Trump was not as great a president as people want him to have been. That Trump did a lot of good things that we like. He appointed good conservative justices. Ray showed me, I didn't think he was going to do that, and he did that, which is certainly true. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He created peace deals in the Middle East. He had a booming economy, but he also did not build the border wall, despite all of his promises to do so. He did not do anything about the mass rioting in America's major cities throughout 2020. He empowered Anthony Fauci to basically run his COVID policy and put out a completely confused and discombobulated policy with regard to COVID, in which he was both ripping Brian Kemp for reopening Georgia and then ripping states like Michigan for not reopening. Donald Trump spent more money in the last years of his administration than any president in history by leaps and bounds. Right? All of those things would be the case that you could make against Trump if you say, I'll be a better president than Trump will be. The problem is that's having really no impact on the Republican voting base. The Republican voting base in the primaries seems not to care very much about what people do. It cares much more about what people say, and even more importantly, about the attitudinal orientation toward the left. So whoever is seen as sort of the most provocative, the person who's seen as the hardest puncher, is the person the Republican base wants. And the Republican base seems to equate saying things with doing things, which is why you're seeing Vivek rise and DeSantis decline. DeSantis has done all the things that Vivek talks about doing in Florida, but it doesn't seem like that's having like a marked impact on the race in favor of DeSantis. DeSantis will pass a bill fighting woke in the state of Florida. Vivek will write a book about fighting woke, and the base treats those two things as exactly equivalent. So kind of point number one, which is I should be the guy and not Trump because Trump underperformed as president, particularly in his last year. The Republican base doesn't seem to want that one, which leaves you with the electability argument. Now, the electability argument under normal circumstances for DeSantis would be a pretty easy argument. After all, if you look at Ron DeSantis' electability numbers, that dude won the state of Florida, which used to be a purple state, by 20 points. Right? If you take a look at Florida voters registration, in December of 2018, Democrats had a voter registration edge of 257,000. By August of 2023, the Republicans had a voter registration edge.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that.
When you say there are people on stage who shouldn't be running for president, who do you mean? Whatever happened to Mike Pence? He's out there attacking you. What is that? Do you think Epstein killed himself sincerely? Do you think we're moving towards civil war?
It's good to have you at Bedminster. It's very nice.
I love it. You're saying they stole it from you last time. Why wouldn't they do the same this time?
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying. Mitch McConnell is trying to get senators to impeach me. Crooked Joe Biden is so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country. I don't think he's going to make it to the gate, but, you know, you never know.
It started with protests against you, then it moved to impeachment twice,
right?
And now indictment. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict?
I can say this. There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred that I've never seen, and that's probably a bad combination. We're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate.
He's not wrong.
Welcome to the special edition of RBN Live. We're covering the Trumpless GOP debates. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Kit? What's up, Nick?
Hey.
What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome. This is gonna be a fun edition of Nick at Night. We got RBN Live. We got CJ here. Our boy Kit here. Our post-Duopolis brother. I'm glad that you joined us today. What's poppin', Kid?
I'm doing good. It is really hot here in my city. It's almost like somebody decided to not only turn the thermostat on, but not even have the fan, and it is unbearable. But I'm getting by with some cool water, but I hope you guys are nice and cool wherever you're at. So I just hope all is well with all of you. But thank you for the invite, and I'm ready to see this debate, but I'm willing to make a bet here. I'm betting like at least 50% of the time they're going to be talking about Trump in a Trumpless debate. They're going to be talking about him. It's going to be the
only thing I'm interested in. The only thing I'm interested in hearing for real is the conversation around China and Ukraine, especially the Ukraine thing, because you're going to have Asa Hutchinson, Christie. I need to line up. I don't know if there's any other the neocon. I need on, but you got
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley. So Nikki Haley, Christie, Tim Scott. What's Tim Scott say? I haven't seen his position, but I think he's a pro-Ukrainer, a pro-NATO
I'm pretty sure he is. He's not rah-rah. I don't think, because I don't think I've seen clips of him being like rah-rah for the war.
That's what I want to see. I want to see that change. A lot of it's going to be tough to listen to, but I always had a history of watching these things. I still remember watching the Bush, not the Bush, but the McCain-Obama debates over a decade ago. I remember the Obama-Mitt Romney debate, and it's still trippy because I remember clearly. I seen it live where Barack Obama called out Mitt Romney for his Russia fear-mongering. And that was a big zinger at the time. We said, what do you think this is? The Cold War? Why are you trying to – I want peace with Russia. Now you got to see how it's completely flipped.
Yeah, they're trying to flip it around.
And one thing – and I'll pass to you, CJ. When people always say that Russia preferred to have Trump in office, which is definitely true because Hillary won in World War III and she won a no-fly zone in Syria. What a lot of people don't remember is that Russia – wanted Barack Obama to defeat John McCain because John McCain is a psychopath as well who wanted to promote war with Russia. So they promoted Barack Obama. So when Russia gators talk about how Trump is in line with Russia, they never bring that point up as well. So CJ, what's your thoughts? I know. Go ahead, CJ.
No, it feels like we were gonna say the same thing. That we're about to get into another topic. Yeah, we're gonna. So something dropped in our lap before earlier today, and that's the interview Dr. Cornel West did on Meet the Press. So we decided to start 15 minutes earlier so that we can cover this before the debate starts. But my comments on this sort of a pre-debate discussion is I'm also most curious in the parts of the discussion that they differ on Donald Trump, and that is like Ukraine in particular. So I want to hear about that. And of course, GOP are China hawks, so they're all going to be kind of going at China, but there are some that are worse than others. So that's going to be interesting. I'm interested also, just as on a petty point of this back and forth that they're going to do. Well, this is Fox News, so they may not bring up January 6th. They may not bring up the indictment.
No. They're going to bring up January 6th. Yes, Chris Christie's going to do so because Chris Christie's gone on the record bearing Vladimir Harkonnen. I mean, Chris Christie. Sorry about that. No. I have nicknames for a few of them, including Nikki Haley. That's not my name. That's not her name. For real. No, seriously, that's not her.
That's not her first
name.
That's not her name. Yeah, it's not.
No, it's not her name. But look, they're going to be talking about a lot of issues because they also want to earn the approval in favor of the latte sipping neoliberal Democrats, because they want to say, like, this is the person, whoever's going to be standing out, the liberal media is going to be saying this is the person who should be the representation of the Republican Party. And by the way, by the actions of these people who will be on a debate stage, something else might backfire on all of them. All of them might make themselves even look more unappealing to Trump supporters and Republican voters, because if Trump isn't even in the nominee, many of them might not even want to vote because they see how these politicians are just like cookie cutter versions, conservative versions of Democrats. That is something to take into account.
The swamp you're referring to the swamp.
When is the Trump Tucker interview dropping? It's dropping.
That's dropping 5 minutes before. So maybe I can bring up the video here. Here goes. Let's do the videos. Cornel videos.
We have a limited amount of time here.
Yeah. So we're gonna. We may not get through all of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go ahead, Nick. You were gonna say something.
Yeah, because this segment, maybe it may take some time to do this one, but we can cover a little bit of it. But it'll be a shame to speak through this one. But CJ,
I say we devote maybe 15. I say we devote 15 minutes to this, and then right before 5 minutes before we stop wherever we're at. So let's do that, and then we can always come back to this and do a longer version. We do that all the time, so
yeah, that's fine.
I have no problem. Let's get into it then. This is the segment we added, coming to you a little bit earlier. Where's my page? Here we go.
The third rail of a third-party ticket. I'll talk to Green Party.
I am going to fast forward it to when he is on, closer to when he's introduced.
Activist and former Bernie Sanders presidential backer is seeking the Green Party's presidential nomination. And joining me now is Green Party presidential candidate and Union Theological Seminary professor, Cornel West. Thank you so much, Professor West, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Love it when one of us come in here cold, because it's always a good.
I knew he was gonna cover. I knew he was gonna cover it, so I'm gonna wait till we just do our live coverage. But let's continue.
What a blessing! And I salute you in this wonderful new job, so very well deserved. It's beautiful to see you flowering and flourishing, I should say, from Harvard Yard to now Meet the Press. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Professor West. I appreciate that so much.
One thing I noticed, Dr. Cornel West has a great strategy where he comes on and he stroked the ego of the professional managerial class managers before he destroys their talking points. And it always leads him They love civility politics, so it always leaves them in an awkward position.
It does. That's on purpose. And it's funny, Nick, because I wanted to bring up the same point. I was going to bring it up later, but the same point, because the reason he does it is genius. Because you have to understand the professional managerial class, which he does. Yeah. What do they value most? I got my degrees and I've done this. And what does he do? Look where you've come from here. He's pointed out the whole point of the professional managerial class, which is to climb the ranks. So he's patting her on the back for that. So now, even if it's supposed to be where you're supposed to be this bait and switch interview, which they all do to him, they really can't go that hard at him because it's like, man, he gave me props for this. No, none of you bastards gave me props.
I think there's another way of looking at it. Dr. Cornel West has always said in interviews that, hey, he's also a little bit of a gangster, and what he did was a smooth criminal drive-by. It was a compliment hit. And then a disarm no jutsu. I took that from somebody in the live stream chat. So I had to disarm no jutsu. Hey, I didn't come up with it. It was somebody in the live stream chat, and the name just went past like light speeds. By the way, don't forget to hit the like button, folks. But there we go. There we go. The Jamon 93 disarm no jutsu. That's what he did.
Let's continue while we still got time.
We'll get through this. Let's play it a little while.
Thank you for being here. We do want to talk to you about your candidacy, which has gotten a lot of attention. And I want to start off by asking you about it in this context. Your longtime political ally, Senator Bernie Sanders, he's not a Democrat, but he did, as you know, run twice in the Democratic presidential primary. So let me just put the question to you. Why have you decided to run as a third-party candidate rather than a Democrat challenging President Biden?
Yes, I mean, Bernie Sanders, as you know, is my very dear brother. I have a deep love for him. We have disagreement at this historical moment. I'm thoroughly convinced that neither party is speaking to the pressing needs of poor and working people. And so the two-party system itself is becoming an impediment for the flowering of American democracy. We've got too many fellow citizens, 63% living paycheck to paycheck. And many of us know exactly what that means, no matter how big or small our check actually is. And so in that sense, I must say that it's hard to view oneself as a spoiler when there's increasing rot in the system with two parties connected to big money, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and militarism abroad. And we need, and really the anthem of Black people, lift every voice. We need many, many more voices, and the two parties that we have are too narrow at this point.
Well, I'm curious.
Let's just take it at each answer. So what do you think of that answer? One thing I got to say, it feels like he's getting better, a little more better at, in small amounts of time, getting in those critiques of both parties that you're not normally hearing by any other candidate. So I like that about some of these.
Yeah, you would expect that. Absolutely. You would expect that. And one thing I was saying, I'll pass to you, kid. Just one quick point.
Go ahead.
When she says, "Why aren't you challenging Biden running as a Democrat?" And my response to that is, no one challenging Biden more than Dr. Cornel West because he's running outside the Democratic Party.
Precisely.
Because guess who's going to give up after Super Tuesday? No matter you have, I think the latest poll, RFK is free falling with support among Democrats. He's killing it with Republicans, but that's going to do you great in the Democratic primary, you genius. So after Super Tuesday, they're going to throw in the towel and they're going to do their own thing. I think they're going to endorse him, but they are irrelevant when it comes to challenging Biden power after that point. Meanwhile, Dr. Cornel West, the same as Joe Stein before him, was in it to the end. In November, October, September, they are on the campaign trail after Biden. Meanwhile, Marianne Wilson gonna be like, "Yeah, I know I had criticism of Biden, but we got to defeat Trump." You guys see the difference? You guys see the difference between who actually challenged Biden and not? But kid, I want to hear from you. Go ahead, kid.
Well, what I like is how he again brings up being a spoiler. Look, how can he spoil something that's already been spoiled? And this whole thing about stealing votes from Biden, again, stealing, it is the act of theft of stealing something that belongs to somebody else. That means what corporate media is trying to tell voters is that our votes automatically belong to Democrats. But that's not how voting works. Voting is said candidate should earn my vote. So that means if I or anyone else in the audience want to vote for Dr. Cornel West, or let's say Libertarian or Republican, that means those candidates earned our vote and our respect and us taking time out of our day to vote for them. My vote does not automatically belong to Biden. So how can Dr. Cornel West steal something that didn't belong to Biden in the first place? Earning my vote 101. But all what Vote Blue, no matter who's going to say is, oh, you're just helping Trump. Well, then fine. I'll be your villain. I'll be your bad guy. But that still won't change my mind. It's actually going to reinforce my belief. And I'm going to share that with my audience every morning. Vote how you feel like. Even if you don't want to vote, fine. But you got to earn my vote. And Biden isn't earning my vote.
He's earning no one's vote. And I'll do the same thing. Let her ask the question and let him answer. And then we will react on the other side.
Because you say this is a moment where you're not necessarily seeing eye to eye with your good friend, Senator Bernie Sanders. Have you spoken to him about your candidacy? As you know, he's already endorsed President Biden.
Who gives a shit?
No, we've had no dialogue. I can feel his love at a distance. I hope he can feel my love at a distance. But no, we've had no dialogues about it. Not at all. And as you know, I was very close to him for two campaigns, and I just don't think Democratic Party treated him fairly. They didn't treat him justly. Democratic Party was too anti-democratic, and I think both establishments in the Republican Party and in the Democratic Party, they are undergoing a slow erosion. I think one of the reasons why you get a Trump is because the Democratic Party establishment has eroded. I think you're going to see it in many ways in the debate tomorrow night. You know, we just don't have the high quality. So you end up with a lot of Pied Piper language at Trump, but he's in so many ways beneath mediocrity, God bless him. And then with Biden, you've got milquetoast mediocrity. Where are the great visionary statespersons that come in and intervene as this country is undergoing polarization and gangsterization? In the name of integrity, honesty, decency, and generosity, we have got to have new voices on the scene. That's why I'm running for president.
And let me pause it here. So again, it does either that initial comment he made really threw her off her rocker, or she's just not the person to question him adversarially, because she's just kind of asking the questions that's written on the paper and then going with the answers. Not really challenging him like an Anderson Cooper. If you remember that interview with Anderson Cooper, he was just kind of challenging the word, the things that he was saying. So, and he's just has a more effective argument to argue against. I believe he's arguing. Any other comments before we get to the last? I think he got two more questions, and we should be able to get through this actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's push forward so people can see this, because I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow morning too.
Absolutely.
Past position in 2004, you signed a letter of former Ralph Nader advisors urging progressives in swing states to vote for John Kerry. I'm going to read you a little bit of this letter that you signed. Quote, "This year, we urge support for Kerry Edwards in all swing states, even while we strongly disagree with Kerry's policies on Iraq and other issues. For people seeking progressive social change in the United States, removing George W. Bush from office should be the top priority in the 2004 presidential election. Progressive voters for John Kerry in swing states may prove decisive in attaining this vital goal." If you believed that in 2004, Dr. West, how do you rationalize your third-party candidacy this time around?
Well, it's a wonderful question because, as you know, I supported Brother Biden, given my profound disagreements with Biden as architect of mass incarceration, as supporter of invasion and occupation of Iraq. Why? Because I was thoroughly convinced that what the Republicans were presenting was so dangerous. But the sad thing is now, is that as dangerous as a second Trump term would be, if we don't break out of the corporate duopoly, we're going to be doing this for the next 10, 20, and 30 years. And I don't think the American project can withstand it. This shift from Democrats to Republicans, Democrats feeding the Republicans feeding the Democrats, and yet poor people, working people, finding themselves pushed to the margins. It could be Cop City, both parties support. It could be expansion of military budget, both parties support. It could be policies advantageous to Wall Street, both parties support. And as you know, this is the 60th anniversary of Brother Martin Luther King's great speech. And I've always viewed myself as my own humble calling, trying to keep alive the great legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker, and Diane Nash. And that tradition has to continue on and on. I think of Les McCann's great classic, compared to what, 1969? Compared to what at this point with these parties? Let's try something new.
We'll stop there. Let's get comments on this final question, and we'll stop there. But I mean, this is a good question because to me, this was one of the more sort of effective lines he had as a comeback. The critique of both parties is what people need to hear. This sort of critique that they're not hearing from anyone, because either you're on blue side or you're the red side. So you're taking up for one of the capitalist, corporate, corrupt teams. And he's saying, no. Both of these teams are corrupt. So that person instantly has more credibility on both sides. Like if I'm just saying blue stuff, red team automatically is not believing me. If I'm vice versa with the red team, but if I'm saying both, I have credibility at least from the opposite position from both sides. So your comments before we switch over to the Trump interview, guys?
So real quick, when we look at Dr. Cornel West and his message, look, he is being as honest and sincere as possible. And look, 2004 is way different than 2023. And obviously there might have been a different mindset about what the Democratic Party could have been or what people thought it could turn into. So the thing is, trying to bring up where he was or where the Green Party was or how Nader felt at the time is irrelevant in this day and age. What matters is now. The past is the past. It is done and over. The ink is dry. There's no, oh, gee, what if this would be different? Or how come you thought like this? We all change. Nick, CJ, I'm pretty sure back in the day you guys had different opinions. And guess what? Like normal people, you changed your opinions and you grew as adults and you saw things through different perspectives, as have I, as have the audience. So this whole idea of bringing up, oh, Dr. Cornel West, you did this in 2004, or you did this in 2020 by having people vote for Biden. Okay, it's irrelevant now. What matters is now and why he's running. And he poses as a real significant threat to Biden. Sabby did a great breakdown about how black voters are walking away from the Democratic Party. There's a reason why black voters, or dare I say it, voters in general, are walking away from the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party doesn't deliver. So if the Democratic Party doesn't deliver, it is not my fault that the party failed its voters. It's their fault. And so if Dr. Cornel West is running, I encourage it. And if Vote Blue, no matter who, wants to keep on doing voter shaming, fine. Vote shame all you want. But don't be surprised if people smack you right in the mouth if you keep on talking to smack.
So this is some quality shit right here, fam.
Yes, beautiful. That's a work of art.
There's some beautiful shit right here. When people say that that we vote for Dr. Cornel West, it will make Biden lose, I'm like, dude, that's a selling point for me, fam.
I made it clear. I made it clear on election night in 2024. I'm buying myself a nice Costco ribeye steak, one of those big ones that you huck at somebody, and I'm going to cook it and I'm going to eat it while I'm watching the general election, how it all turns out. And I am going to be feasting off the tears of Vote Blue, no matter who, liberals. No matter how this election turns out, I'm going to be feasting off of their panic and fear. So go ahead. Like, again, Peter Parker saying it best. Like, I'm happy this is happening.
Go ahead, Nick. You're for your final words. You were in the middle of saying something.
Oh no, we can get ready to move on, but
okay. So I have Tucker Carlson's page up, and I'm now logging into the debate. So I mean, we can switch back and forth. And if you can have it as a backup, because if you can have one of them up as a backup too, because
for sure,
this may not go well with my internet, so we'll see. We shall see.
It's good to have a backup. It's good to have a backup.
Yes.
Yeah, but let's kind of go ahead, Kid, if you're gonna say something real quick.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's always good to have a backup. We used to do this in 2020 when we did the debates, but or when we covered the debates, the Democratic Party debates. But just make sure you have things at the ready in case the stream dies, because it might not be on our end.
So who's on the stage here? That's Nikki Haley, Vivek versus Ron DeSantis. That's gonna be interesting. But while we wait till they start, do you have did the Tucker Trump?
Let me refresh it again. I haven't refreshed it for.
You already know people are waiting. That shit about to blow.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I told you guys before. I'm like in the minority, I guess, because I'm more interested in seeing the debate than seeing Tucker give him a potentially softball interview.
It's already dropped. It's already dropped. It's 46 minutes and 12 seconds long.
Yeah, I do see it now. So I'm gonna bring it up in about 30 seconds, and then we'll flip back and forth, especially since the debates will have commercials, so we'll have time to flip back and forth and have commentary and talk over it. All right, so here it goes. Hang on a second. Let me blow it up and everything before I share my screen, just to make it go faster with my internet. Wow, it is a lot of people trying to watch it. It's like
3.4 million right now views on it. 3.4 million.
All right, so now I'm able to share. All right, so I'm gonna bring yours is down, and here we go, guys. All right. So
I want to see Tucker. I want to see Tucker grill Trump on Julian Assange. You know what I mean? That's something
I wonder if he'll bring that up.
I want to see him asking about your dubious hires, like why you hired Mike Pompeo, Steve Mnuchin, right? Chris Christie. Like the Republicans hate Chris Christie, but Trump hired the guy. And my thesis has always been Trump is just an agent of the empire. So I don't know what's the appeal. I'd rather see him be challenged by his rivals than get a potentially softball interview. That's just me. I want to see Tucker grill this motherfucker. And from the previews I've seen, it's just kind of him just tossing shit up to Trump. Be like, all right, you can just watch Trump speak in general for that. You know what I mean? We see.
Well, it could be interesting. And if you see the
Ukraine Senate, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you see on the preview of the video, anytime they're just kind of casually walking together, you know that shit is not serious. Because AOC was doing the same thing. They have this little part where they walk. I don't know why my computer is moving so slow, but it is.
Yeah, let's see. I might be able to pull it up. Let me see.
Do you say you have it, Kid? If you have it, you share it, and then I'll let you share it.
Hold on, wait. Well, let me share because I actually
mine is moving real slow.
Hold on. I got it right here.
Yeah, the debate will start here soon too.
Being sent. Copy link. Post it in the chat right there. Boom. Set for you guys right there in the private chat.
No, I mean if you share it through your.
I can do it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard you. Let me go ahead and correct that. Let me pause it here, and then present share screen. Boom. All right.
So yeah.
Let's just get ready to play it.
It's debate night, but we're not in Milwaukee.
All right, so yeah, if you can expand it and then we can play it. And Nick, if you're watching the other one, let us know if we need to, switch over or something like that.
But maybe I'll start here soon. But we can keep both streams. We can always pull both of them up. So
okay, cool.
Oh, I don't know how to do that, so that's cool. We could do that. That'd be perfect.
Cool. Let me go ahead.
See, this is where they're at right now.
Oh God, they're doing that intro. Jesus Christ!
So let's watch the first few minutes of of this first here. So, Kate, go ahead and play this.
With the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee.
Well, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them. But you see, the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. They They were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. I mean, it's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016.
That's kind of
in
soft,
2016,
isn't it?
I went through the same stuff.
It is.
See, I'm just telling you guys from my perspective. This is why I'm not impressed by this guy. Like that's soft. The media's being mean to me. Marianne Williamson shit right there. But let's continue. I'll keep it short.
Well, I mean, it's it's typical Trump behavior, but it doesn't come as surprising. But I think the debates are boring without him. So there.
Yeah.
And had to fight them all the way. And then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points. And I'm
Now he
saying,
sounds
why
like
am I
Nancy
doing
Pelosi.
it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate. I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering. I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them.
Yep.
You soft. Fam.
Well,
doesn't that apply to a bunch of all the debates? So is that him saying he's not coming to any debates? I think that's.
And we are allowed to make this criticism because we criticize Joe Biden for this. We criticize Nancy Pelosi for this, and we call out liberals who like Trump is a coward. Like, yeah, I think he is, but your boy Joe Biden not debating either. We are post-duopoly leftists. We look at all these people as cowards. Like Trump, you're afraid of Christie, sir?
What I'm disappointed is, like I said, I was hoping for the Republican primary debates because I want to be entertained. Do you want to focus more on are they still doing that intro?
Yeah, I'll just flip it back and forth.
Oh,
just so you
God.
guys
I've taken a pass, as you probably noticed.
Oh, I did. I'm grateful that you did. It's interesting, though, because you spent a lot of your career in television.
Yeah.
You had a top show in television on NBC. But you don't feel the need now running for president to do television, obviously. Do you think television is declining?
Oh, come
well,
on.
according to
that's a
a
weak
poll
question.
that I guess we just saw, it just came out where it's down like 35%, but I think they were referring to cable. I think cable's down because it's lost credibility. MSNBC.
Yeah, again,
See, I'm gonna approach this in a way that's gonna piss off a lot of Tucker and Trump fans. I promise you guys, because that's weak, fam. That's you talking to a guy who might be president. That's my thought.
To be fair, maybe it starts off solid because again, we haven't seen.
Yeah,
the full
we see.
thing
I'll be fair. We see, because we're still gonna cover the thing eventually. But let's get to the debate. You guys see, I'm gonna flip it back and forth depending on how things go. But let's watch this.
Contenders are positioned by the order they sit in the polls, with the highest polling candidates in the middle standing center stage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Ugh.
Boo. Come on, guys.
Boo.
Former Vice President Mike Pence.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
It's not her name.
Former New Jersey Governor Christie.
Harkonnen. House Harkonnen.
Tim Scott.
Who?
Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Who?
And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Who is that guy?
Some ground rules for tonight. We'll ask the questions, and the candidates get 1 minute to answer. If someone is singled out, you get 30 seconds to respond. And when the time runs out, we all will hear this. Very pleasant.
So tonight, these candidates have a big opportunity to break out of the pack and to explain why they are best prepared to be the Republican choice for president at a time when the likely Democrat nominee, President Joe Biden, is working to convince the country that with Bidenomics, things are looking up.
We call my plan Bidenomics.
Oh, God.
I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
But is it? More than
Coming from a
65%
dementia
of
man,
Americans
that doesn't
think
give me a
the
lot of
country's headed in the wrong
security.
direction. And here's the reality for some voters we talked to here in Wisconsin this week.
We have noticed a dramatic increase in prices at the grocery store just across the board.
Gas is high and food is high. A lot of people out here homeless because they can't buy food.
It's tough when you got mortgage rates at 7-8% versus 2 to 3. It's just you can't afford a house anymore.
Inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us out here.
As we sit here tonight, the #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Rich Men
They're gonna
North
use this
of Richmond.
guy. Capitalists are shameless. They're using this guy.
Virginia, named Oliver Anthony.
None of these people
His
have
lyrics
policies that
speak
are
of
going to help.
alienation, of deep frustration with the
What I
state
am
of
noticing
government and of
about
this
the
country.
GOP debate, at least this
Washington,
one,
D.C. is about 100
this is a lot of
miles north
fanfare.
of Richmond.
Like the other on this on, they don't do all this. They don't do this stuff. This is
Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know.
These are the architects of the neoliberal nightmare. These are the apprentices of the neoliberal
They're trying to
nightmare.
act like they're for what this guy is talking about.
No. They're all careers politicians. Nikki Haley, Christie, all of them. They don't care about people. Politicians are not people, everyone. And if they're Democrat or Republican lawmakers, they don't have. Okay, let's see what
decline is not inevitable. It's a choice.
Oh, Jesus.
We need to send Joe Biden back to his
Opening
basement
remarks.
and
There must be
reverse
opening remarks.
American decline. And it starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong. We also cannot.
We can't
succeed
afford
when
it, and then you
Congress
say something
spends
about Hunter
trillions
Biden.
and
That
trillions
makes
of
me.
dollars.
That tells me you're
Those
not
rich
serious
men
about
north of
fixing the
Richmond
problem
have
you're
put
talking
us
about.
in this situation.
Nope.
And
Comparison?
finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up all energy production. We will be energy dominant again in this country.
No, you're not.
He's basically saying we will kill the climate in this country. You hear me? We will. That's what he's basically saying. We want to participate in it too.
Hell, actually, I actually want to push back a little bit. I'll push back. Hold on.
Governor Christie,
They
you
are.
agree with Governor
They are.
DeSantis just said there, and why would you be better
Go ahead.
on the economy than him?
Well, look, I do agree predominantly with what Governor DeSantis just laid out. I think that if you asked every one of us up here,
That's
that
an
we
ask
would
kissing
agree
question.
predominantly with what he just laid out. Here's
They're
the
gonna open up
difference.
the energy
The
field.
difference
What
is
they're going to do is they're going to
work and make sure
energy to other countries. The American citizen will not get that. They're going to open up a lot more, but it's not going to lower the prices. That's what they'll do.
we get a majority of the vote, not only by winning the Congress and the Senate in 24, but also by having someone who's had the experience of doing it. Now, I was elected as a conservative Republican in a blue state with 61% of the vote, with a Democratic legislature against me the entire time. And we still, through hard, strong decision-making,
you
brought them
closed
around
bridges.
to our point of view. We cut taxes in New Jersey. We cut debt in New Jersey. We made sure that each and every time we were confronted with bad Democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were good ideas, we brought people together to make progress going forward. Truth and accountability are the things we need to do to fight waste. And I'd say the last thing is this, Brett. We cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their
Does that include
grandchildren.
Ukraine,
It's robbing our
Christie?
country, and it's
Well,
wrong.
Governor, let me just follow up very quickly.
Christie, you're
New
at
Jersey,
3.3%,
when you were
buddy.
Governor, had the
You're
second lowest
irrelevant.
credit rating in the nation after Illinois, and it was downgraded 11 times.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what happens when you inherit a blue state that has done that. But when you look at what we did on debt, Brett, in that state, we cut debt in that state, debt that had been left to us by three Democratic gubernatorial predecessors of mine who ran up that debt tremendously. And what you
Still
also
don't solve the
saw us
problem,
do
buddy.
was to cut the unemployment rate in half. It was over 10% when I became governor in 2010. What we also did was cut pension payments to public employees
You also
to make sure
cut
that taxpayers
bridges,
were not
access to
being
bridges.
soaked by a public employee union system that was killing
Shush.
the
This isn't
taxpayer.
all you can eat buffet. Calm down.
Governor Scott, Tim Scott, Senator Scott, excuse me. The
No
song
discussion about how the
also
workers
goes
are doing,
after
though.
welfare programs. As a senator, now President Biden argued for freezing federal spending. This was back in the 80s, and dealing with sacred cows. He does not talk about that anymore. You have been a senator, though, for 10 years. So what
They
have
just
you
froze
done
spending in
to
the debt
rein
ceiling.
in the increasing size of government?
Well, thank you for the question. Over the last several years, I've had an opportunity to vote against spending package after spending package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family. When you see 16% inflation, your gas is up 40%, your food is up 20%, your electricity is up 20%. We can stop that by turning the spigot off at Washington, sending the money back to the states, and allowing the decisions to be made at their own houses.
Trickle-down economics
I
don't
helped
work.
write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. We cut taxes for a single mom like the one that raised me by 70%, for dual households by 60%, returning to the average family.
They still repeat the myth of trickle-down economics, man. This is ridiculous.
We can't spend it. That's good news for the American people.
Okay, but just to follow up, you did during the Trump administration.
He didn't answer the question. He just said his prepared line.
And just so you know, he voted with Biden
14.7%
14.7% of the
that
time.
administration. That's a lot of money.
There's no doubt that during the Trump administration, when we were dealing with the COVID virus, we spent more money. But here's what happened at the end of our time in the majority. We had low unemployment, record low unemployment, 3.5%.
So she pointed out how he voted for packages under Trump.
70-year low for women.
I guess
African Americans, Hispanics,
Freedom
and Asians
Caucus
had
thinks that's too much.
All-time low.
You see how he's
but our
backpedaling?
inflation was at 2%.
These are packages to
Under
help
Joe
people.
Biden,
He's
we've seen the
backpedaling
exact
on this.
opposite. We've seen inflation explode, which led to 12 Federal Reserve increases that's devastating home buyers today.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you're listening to these answers.
If I may,
hold on one second.
We're going administration, so I don't know
Be
if I
quiet.
get a
You're
chance to
irrelevant.
He didn't
Shush.
mention you specifically, but we'll be with you in a second, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Ramaswamy, listening to all of this, why should voters choose
I think
you
after Ramaswamy,
over
we
more
can go
experienced
back to
politicians
Trump
on the
because what do
stage?
we need to Asa
You're
Hutchinson
basically,
and
a
who
blank
we need
slate
to
for
do
people. You're 38 years old. You've said that you only voted in 2 presidential elections before this moment, this political race.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck
quiet.
is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage?
Oh, geez.
I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think Brett is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians in
You're
the
not an
Republican Party
outsider.
who have been running from something. Now is our moment to start running to something. To our vision of what it means to be an American.
Plateau bullshit.
I know it is. Everyone's going
This
wild.
guy, Vivek, he's
You
like
hand it over to a
he's
new
the
generation to actually
he's
fix the problem.
the
That's why I'm in this
GOP's
race and we're just getting
Andrew
warmed up.
Yang. That's
No, I got something better. I got something better.
Why are you
That
better
Vivek guy.
positioned to turn around this economy that we've heard all of
Nikki,
these
that's
voters
not your
talking
name.
about?
So let's
Vivek, you know what he is?
let's check out the Donald Trump. Let's check out the
I'm
Donald Trump.
gonna skip her answer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the debate very soon, but I'm gonna skip her answer and Asa's.
All right,
because who
we-
cares?
Yeah,
let's watch a little bit
get
more
to
of
the
this.
questions there. Let's watch a couple of minutes of this. Yeah.
I mean, it's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016. In 2016, I went through the same stuff and had to fight them all the way. And then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points. And I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate. I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass, as you probably noticed.
Well, I did. I'm grateful that you did. It's interesting, though, because you spent a lot of your career in television.
Yeah.
You had a top show in television on NBC. But you don't feel the need now running for president to do television, obviously. Do you think television is declining?
Well, according to a poll that I guess we just saw, it just came out where it's down like 30, 35%. But I think they were referring to cable. I think cable's down because it's lost credibility. MSNBC, or as they say, MSDNC, is so bad.
This
It's
has nothing
so
to do with
wrong
policies.
what they write and what they do
like
and what they say. It's it's fake
chummy
news, as I said.
conversation.
I think I came up with that term.
Yeah, this is extremely softball.
This is like this is like chummy conversation. This is not at all going to be.
Yeah, apparently they're killing it on Twitter, but
it could be.
I'm not seeing a lot of value in this right now.
We're already 2 minutes in though, but it's important that maybe again somewhere along the line it does maybe intensify. But just real quick, I just want to say that Vivek, the way I would describe him, he looks like the clean-cut version of what Anthony Weiner used to be. So I think he's a GOP version. Mark my word, all these people running for office all have skeletons in their closet.
Yeah, we may cover the Trump conversation after debate, but let's.
Yeah, maybe because this seems more lively to me.
And even to one that's probably looking on. I think unquestionably I am the best prepared,
oh God,
the most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race. I was a leader in the Congress of the United States. I led Indiana where we balanced budgets and had a AAA bond rating.
They don't like
when
you
I was
there.
governor. And as vice president of the United States, we spent funding to backfill on the military cuts of the Obama administration, and then
This section is essentially them advertising the failed ideology of trickle-down economics.
In this race, to say that we've got to deal with the long-term national debt issues. You got people on this stage that won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America.
You said American cities are not your concern.
On the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress and as governor. Mr. Vice President,
How exactly is Mike Pence supposed to win against Trump when he has to run on Trump?
This is that complicated, guys. Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy. So I'm not sure I exactly understood Mike Pence's comment, but I'll let you all parse that out. For me, it's pretty simple. That's something a U.S. president can do with focus, and I'll deliver on it.
Well, let me explain it to you. Vivek, if I can. I'll go slower this time.
I sometimes struggle with the reading
Look,
comprehension.
I was a House conservative leader before it was cool. I
Oh my
pushed the
God.
Deficit Reduction Act. It was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States when I was the leader of House conservatives. I balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience.
We don't need some rookie. When you have a rebuttal, okay? And you are up, Governor DeSantis.
So here's the thing. Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake.
We're going to get in trouble.
We let the country
Here we
out
go.
of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this, as your
Lockdown is
president,
okay. He
I
can
will
talk about
never
that
let
when he
the
gets to the
deep
other
state
stuff,
bureaucrats lock you down. You don't
Bro,
take
Ron
somebody
DeSantis
like
about to get shut
Fauci
down.
and coddle him.
Yeah.
You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you
No,
say,
he
Anthony,
just went
you
to red
are
meat.
fired.
That's all he went to.
DeSantis.
Were they even talking about lockdowns? He just brought that out for his.
Yeah, he did.
I just want to respond to Mike for 1 second because he invoked me back. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now. The reality of the fact of the matter is,
Was that one of yours?
Not really, Mike, actually. We're just going to have some fun tonight. And the reality is, you have a bunch of people, professional politicians, super PAC puppets, following slogans handed over to them by their 400-page super PACs last week. The real choice we face in this primary is this. Do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution?
Okay.
And I stand on the side of the American Revolution.
I've got to address
We're going to take control
Wow.
back here.
They
We need
just
everyone to
ripping
have
our
a moment
language.
on the economy.
Ripping.
I think that's
Can I
fair.
address the
There are
COVID
two
issue
people
that
who
the
have
governor
not.
brought up?
We're going to get back to that. We are. There are two people who we have not heard from yet. So let's hear from Governor Burgum and then from Governor Hutchinson on the economy.
Two nobodies.
Great, thank you, Martha. And
Nobody cares.
of course,
Who are
I'm from
you?
a town
Who
of
the
300
hell is?
people. It's a
We're
big
still
deal
gonna
to
watch
make
it
on the
because we
stage
can't go
with
back
all
to
these
that
folks.
Trump. When we do that Trump
are
shit,
you?
our shit drops off.
Doug Burgum.
But when they were all wishing me well.
My mindset is that we can always cover the Trump Tucker interview.
Yeah, it is. It is a recorded.
That's
It's
my
not live.
mindset. So
And we
we
can
cover
talk
this
more
live
over
and-
these guys. We can talk more over like
We can't
these
just
types
talk
of guys.
about the
Like,
Biden
it's just
economy because
ridiculous.
the economy,
But let's
energy,
listen
and
a little
national
bit to what he
security are all
says.
tied together. We, of course, we're paying too much for our energy in our state, right, in our country right now. But part of the reason why is because of the Biden policies on energy. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from
There
the
you
Middle
go.
East,
They're just throwing in
average
just
China, we're just
nonsense.
trading OPEC for Sinopec. And then belatedly, the Biden administration says, no, we're going to put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, we put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, then it's 20% off. Who's buying it? China. So if you buy a battery in this country, you buy a solar panel, it's being produced in a plant in China powered by coal, or it's being powered by oil and gas at 20% off. And every farmer in this country would like to buy diesel at 20% off, just like they're buying it in China.
Governor Hutchinson, quickly.
Thank you, Brad. Delighted to be here tonight. And let me just tell you that I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative state that have a conservative record in which I lowered taxes in Arkansas as governor. I created a $2 billion surplus that I passed over to my successor, and I made sure that we shrunk the size of government. We have 14% fewer state employees in Arkansas after I left government than when I took over as
0.7.
governor.
Wow, they're talking about getting rid of people's
That's what we
employment.
need in Washington, D.C. We need somebody who can actually constrain the growth of the federal government, that can actually reduce the size, and I've pledged to reduce by 10%
Does that include the military and
our
industrial
federal
complex?
non-defense workforce. That's a
Non-defense.
specific
I guess
pledge
it
to
does
make
not.
that
Answer
attacks
my
the
question right away.
administrative state. And let me applaud some of the business partners that are here that have had success in business.
Oh,
But let
get
me
outta
tell you, I've been a federal prosecutor. I've served our country in terms of being head
Can
of
we
the
get to the Ukraine part,
in
please?
Homeland Security in
No, they're
times
not-
of
they're
crisis.
not done yet with their
And while
intros.
I
This is how
think
they do it.
That's experience that is important for the future of our country, to be the president of the United States that can lead with positive solutions and be held accountable.
Thank you. We have a lot of topics to get to, and I promise we're going to get to everyone if we play within the rules. Okay, next topic. More than 1,000 people are still unaccounted for in Maui.
Okay,
after
this
the
is
deadly
one
US
I'm interested in.
wildfire
I didn't know they were
northern
going to cover
section.
this. This is a
Hawaii's
good one.
governor and White House officials said that climate change amplified the cost of human error.
This is how you're a
A
This
tropical
is how you're
storm hit California for the first time in 84 years. The ocean hit 101 degrees off the coast
It
of
is
Florida.
amazing.
And in the
I gotta
last
say
month,
this.
the heat
It's
wave in the
amazing.
Southwest broke records.
The angle that they're coming at Maui is
Diaz
not
from
to
the
help
Young
the
Americans
people. It's to say this is not climate change.
Polls consistently show that young people's #1 issue is climate change. How will you, as both President of the United States and leader of the Republican
How are
Party,
we gonna help the
calm their
people?
fears that the Republican Party doesn't care about
Are you going
climate
to talk
change?
about the people of
So
Maui?
we want to start on this with a show of hands. Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand.
No
if you
conversation
believe.
about the people of Maui. Great call, CJ.
Debate.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to
Stay
take
skipping
debate.
over that shit.
Alexander, so do you want to raise your hand or not?
I don't think that's the way to do it.
So,
let me just say
this
to
is the
Alexander
race to the
this.
top.
First of all,
This is a
one of the reasons our
who
country's
is stupid as
declining is
hell,
because of
and
the way
nobody
the corporate
I mean,
media
who's
treats
smart and nobody wants to raise
Republicans
their
versus
hand.
Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering.
Okay,
He was asked
DeSantis is
about
the
it.
only
He
one
said
bringing
no
that up. All
comment.
right.
Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be
I'll
present.
be right
You've got
back.
to
I'm
be
gonna let it
helping
play for a bit,
people
guys.
who are
Let's
doing this. And here's the deal.
So is that a yes or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No. I didn't raise a hand.
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence.
I cannot believe
And
this.
the reality is, the anti-carbon
DeSantis
agenda
was the only one
is
being
the wet
reasonable.
blanket
What's
on our
happening to the
economy.
people in Maui?
And so the reality
That
is,
wasn't on
more
my
people
bingo
are
card.
dying of bad climate change
No, I didn't expect that
policies
one. I did not
than they
expect
are
that
of
one.
actual climate
Governor,
change.
Governor Haley, are you bought
The
and
death
paid
rate is
for?
down by
Hold on,
98% in the last century.
Listen.
I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy
Oh my
who
God.
sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
That's a rehearsal line.
The last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
That's a rehearsal.
Give me a hug, just like you did to Obama.
Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you
So,
bought and
Brett,
paid
what I
for?
would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Oh, get out of here.
She's been waiting for that one. She's been waiting for that one. She's been like,
We do care about clean
Identity
water. We want to see that taken care
Identity
of.
politics.
But there's a right way to do it.
Sarah
And the right
Palin's
way
better
to do
is like,
it is,
what's the difference
first of
between a
all,
mom and a
yes,
pit
is
bull
climate change real?
lipstick?
Yes,
That
it
was
is.
better
But if
than
you
more
want to go
creative
and
than that
really
one.
change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions.
what? How about the military
and
industrial
these green
complex?
subsidies that Biden has put in, all he's done is help China because he doesn't understand all
China.
these electric vehicles.
So
that
by
he's
the way, China, I covered this before. China lowered their
batteries for
emissions
electric vehicles
record
were made in
levels in the
China.
last 10
And
years,
so
way more than
helping
Western
the
countries, by the
environment,
way. I
you're
covered that in
putting
detail
money in
before.
China's pocket, and Biden did that. So first of all, I think we need to acknowledge the truth, which is these subsidies are not working. We also need to take on the international world and say, okay, India and China, you've got to stop polluting, and that's when we'll start to deal with
Senator
climate
Scott, are
change.
you bought and paid
You got to
for?
stop polluting.
Are
The
you
number
bought and
one
paid for?
polluter on the
Sorry,
planet in
are you
human
bought and
history.
Absolutely not. I mean, here's what the American people deserve is a debate about the issues that affect their lives. Going back and forth being childish is not helpful to the American people to decide on the next leader of our country. Number one, wait a second. And number two,
Blue tone policing.
as a kid who grew up in a single parent household mired in poverty, I wondered,
Oh
was
my
the American
God.
dream real for kids who are devastated by poverty, devastated by the challenges of life? I came to the conclusion that America can do for anyone what she's done for me if we focus on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America. If we want the environment to be better, and we all do, the best thing to do is to bring our jobs home from China. If we create 10 million new jobs in my Made in America plan, we will have a better economy and a better environment. Let me tell you why I say that, Brett.
The bell rang.
America has cut.
Bell rang.
I'm a Southern boy,
Well,
I
one other
talk
thing
slow.
here, too. Can
So
you lower it real quick? I just want to point out.
That was quick. America has cut our carbon footprint in half in the last 25 years. The places where they are continuing to increase, Africa, 950 million people.
You a damn
India,
lie.
over 1 billion.
Understand the
China,
stat
bullshit.
excludes what the military is doing.
Disrespect.
Everything, all their numbers exclude
Devastating
what
our
the
own
military
economy.
is doing.
Let's
Real
bring
quick here,
our
again, the
jobs-
original question
So-
was about
so
what was
we'll-
happening with the people of Maui.
Different
No,
topics to get
the
to.
only person was
We do. We thank
DeSantis
you all. Thank you,
who
Senator
even
Scott.
brought it up.
So coming
DeSantis was the
up
only one who
next,
answered
the
the
candidates
question,
will weigh
or was
in
about to answer the question
on what
about do
could be a
something for the people.
defining issue.
So yeah, they feel it right now. So I had to fact check that because you guys know when you look at the top 5 industries, they're responsible for 71% of the emissions. The top 1% is responsible for all the carbon emissions and all the pollution. When you look at private jets, when you look at the military industrial complex. So this is what the capitalists do. They blame and they punch down. That is factually inaccurate. The climate crisis is the crisis of the top 1%. You guys understand? And you cannot solve the climate crisis without class war. That's why I told you guys the working class shouldn't make any sacrifices until we bring the top 1% to heel. I'm gonna see if I can get a number. I'll report on this quite a bit. top 1%.
Again, just what wasn't on my bingo card. I think when you walked out, Nick, was only DeSantis was talking about what happened to the people. Like we didn't really get a final answer because then everyone started talking about climate change and everyone wanted to be the person like, I don't believe in it. But at least DeSantis had a response. And then what does Christie do? Oh, look at Vivek up there. And then ignores the fact that Obama and his administration had to help out Christie as his state was ill prepared when a hurricane impacted the coastal cities and communities in New Jersey. I mean,
so
again,
they're just on a break. Yeah,
they're
just on
break.
They're
on a break.
I'm
This
gonna show you guys this. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, kid. My bad. I just want
this is what you call a commercial break. So we got plenty of time to talk.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Go ahead. I got clips set up for this too for the commercial break. So I got filler stuff.
Yeah. So this is what I mean, and you guys see how that whole conversation was a train wreck, where they talking about African countries, and they punching down. The world's top 1% of emitters produce over 1,000 times more CO2 than the bottom 1%. The U.S. military-industrial complex is the largest polluter in human history. There's so many more. Here's another one. This is the stat I was thinking about in my head. That's why I had to fact check myself. So to fact check myself, here's the correct stat. Just 100 companies responsible for 71% of global emissions. But tell me more how it's Africa's fault, fam. Tell me more how it's China's fault.
You need to have the other to be the villain. You need to have somebody else to take the blame. That's how all empires work, from the Roman Empire to the Mongol Empire. All empires do this. You have to have the other. The other person's doing this. The other group is doing this. Look, humans all together are royally screwing over the planet. Now, some nations are doing it more than others, and we already know who are the larger global superpowers. We know that. But I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm expecting from the GOP is deflect. Biden's a bad guy. Again, maybe it's starting off soft, but sooner or later they are going to be talking about Trump. They have to be. They're going to have.
Oh
to
yeah, they're
bring
getting
up
to
Donald
it.
Trump.
They're going to get to it. Yeah.
I want you guys to understand why liberals lose people on this issue, because you have people like Al Gore, who does a climate conference flying a private jet.
Oh man, he made money off of that, and then off that weak documentary series too.
And they are bullshit artists because they don't approach the climate crisis as a class issue. They support Ukraine spending like Bernie Sanders and AOC, but they want you to stop using plastic straws. So people look at these people as liars and charlatans, because the true solution to this is class warfare, because it was Chevron and many corporations who lied about this, who put us in an irreversible position. So the best way to counteract that is to adjust our culture to have a more mutual aid approach, so we take care of each other under the looming threat of the climate crisis, and pursue climate justice and prosecute the people who are responsible for massive droughts, the acidification of the ocean, the stabilizing fishing markets. There are so many people in the global south, in Africa, and many other countries who are already facing the consequences of this. That's why you see many droughts in sub-Saharan Africa. There are famines in Somalia. Fishing markets in Southeast Asia was completely destroyed by this. And when asked, will there be any sort of climate reparation because U.S. corporations in the top 1% benefited from this climate crisis, you had Anthony Blinken that essentially said, hell no. So I want people to understand this is a class issue. There are people who are suffering due to the decision that corporations made and profited from, where they got nothing from it. Now they are suffering from it. And then you got people in suburbia who are not victims of this because they're privileged, who shoo it away. But there are people in the global south. There are people in Africa. There are people in Southeast Asia and fishing markets where the acidification of the ocean got so bad, you have populations of fish that are dying now. They're unedible. These are real effects that are happening and destroying the working class of the global community. So go ahead, kid.
Don't forget that wastewater from the Fukushima power plants being dumped in the Pacific Ocean too, and what possible problems can arise from that?
Yeah, let's get back to the debate and we can continue some more. Here we go.
Abortion shouldn't have to perform them. Can't we all agree that contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion? Let's treat this like a respectful issue that it is, and humanize the situation and stop demonizing the situation.
Brett, Governor, hold on. You're not mentioned, Vice President Pence. Governor DeSantis, you signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. One of your biggest financial backers said that you need to, quote, shift to get moderates or you will lose. What do you say to him and others who say politically that is a tough thing to sell nationally?
Well, I would say we sold the biggest election landslide victory in the history of the Republican Party in the state of Florida in 2022. That's what I did. We can win. But second of all, look, you got to do what you think is right. I believe in a culture of life. I was proud to sign the heartbeat bill. I remember one of the most impactful moments of my life was when I heard the heartbeat of my oldest daughter in my wife's womb, and then saw the sonograms of all 3 of my kids. What the Democrats are trying to do on this issue is wrong, to allow abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. I know a lady in Florida named Penny. She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan. Fortunately, her grandmother saved her and brought her to a different hospital. We're better than what the Democrats are selling. We are not going to allow abortion all the way up till birth, and we will hold them accountable for their extremism.
But just to be clear, Governor, would you sign a 6-week ban federally?
I'm going to stand on the side of life. Look, I understand Wisconsin is going to do it different than Texas. I understand Iowa and New Hampshire are going to do different. But I will support the cause of life as governor and as president.
This is the least interesting part of the debate because this is just culture war nonsense.
Hold on. Vice President Pence.
And again, they got to deal with states' rights and citizen ballot initiatives too.
I'm not new to this cause.
Uh-oh.
After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you.
The Holy Warrior.
See, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life. And I knew from that moment on, the cause of life had to be my cause. And I've been a champion for life in the Congress, a champion for life as governor and as vice president. And to be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue, it's a moral issue. And I promise you, as president of the United States, the American people will have a champion for life in the Oval Office. Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain, an abortion cannot be allowed? A 15-week ban is an idea whose time has come. It's supported by 70% of the American people, but it's going to take.
Meanwhile, these people are not doing anything about child poverty.
By the way, again,
they claim to care about children so much, but they're not doing anything about child poverty.
By the way, again, red state like Ohio and Kentucky have voted to preserve, again, a woman's right to choose. Again, Ohio was having a special election because this very question was being brought up, and the Republican legislator wanted to get rid of citizen ballot initiatives. So again, right now it is currently a state issue, and the Democrats could have codified Roe v. Wade.
Any more than a Democrat president could ban all those state laws. Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation to ban abortion after a baby is capable of experiencing pain. It's just going to take leadership.
Hold on. 70% of the Senate does not. You have to be honest with the American people.
Have to have a 15-week limit.
Let's get Governor Bergman for one minute here.
Why? Why?
Yeah,
tell him to get the drinks. Tell him to get some Cokes.
We need refreshments
for everybody. Yeah.
The states.
Go ahead.
So that's where it is right now.
Why are we going this guy? Look at his eyebrows.
You are not in favor of a ban.
He's like, I'm just happy I'm here,
What do you
man.
say about the states? There's about 5 of them, including New Jersey. I think.
Cover foreign policy already, you deeply unserious clowns. They're running for president.
Birth, though. If you were president, would you be able to abide that?
Well, first,
where's my sandwich?
I'm a pro-life governor of a very pro-life state. And this issue is, of course, very important. But I am on the record, and I stand behind that we should not have a federal abortion ban. We should not. And the reason why we shouldn't is very simple. It's the 10th Amendment in the Constitution. In the Constitution, which the states created the federal government, not the other way around, it says that there were certain duties allowed to the federal government delegated to them by the states. The rest are left to the states, comma, or importantly, or to the people. We need to get back to freedom and liberty for the people in this country. And we can't have Republicans who fight for 50 years for this great cause and to return it back to the states. And then the next day they turn around and go, no, the feds should do that, because the feds are stepping into people's lives. They're stepping into people's businesses over and over. If we say that the feds should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is returned to the states. This is where it should be.
But Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. You signed a 6-week ban. Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. So you're saying federally, it's all going to go to the states.
Yes, and what is going to work in New
Why
York will never
are you
work
making
in
this
North
person
Dakota,
relevant?
vice versa. That's
Governor
why 50
Asa
states.
Hutchinson,
That's why
right here.
50 states.
This is too important of an issue that I have to address.
Hutchinson,
First
shut
of all,
up.
The
Where's my
Supreme
sandwich?
Court gave it back to the elected representatives, whether it's the states or whether it's the United States Congress.
That's
so
right.
there is authority, and that's why President Biden is pushing for a Democrat proposal, which is, in essence, abortion on demand through the term. So they have their extreme position at a national level. It's most likely going to be addressed in the states, but it's certainly fine for it to be addressed at the national level as well. Arkansas has the record of being the most pro-life state in the nation. I signed 30 pro-life pieces of legislation while I was governor. And every state can determine a different outcome here. And it is the most important issue for women and for the unborn child and for our country that we get this right. It's going to be a continued debate. Let's talk about it in terms of compassion, in terms of protecting the life, and also understanding how we have to enhance adoption services, how we have to enhance maternal care. Those things we've done in Arkansas and are important for our nation's future.
This is why they're missing Trump. Like, this is why they're missing Trump.
I'll let you weigh in.
Terrible
We
moments
cannot
like right
let
now.
states like California, New York, and Illinois have abortions on demand up until the
Why are
day
you bringing up
of
my
birth.
state, buddy,
That is
Tim? Because I got a
immoral.
funny freaking story to tell you, Tim. All right, in
We must
2018,
have a president
there was
of
an
the
article
United
that we covered when we were still on radio about how women coming from states where their abortion was illegal, how they had made the arduous march and drive to come to Illinois. Illinois has that state right.
I got to tell you,
Stay out.
We must fight for life. Our Declaration of Independence says our Creator gave
Such a
us
not
an
authentic
They're saying
person.
literally
He
the same
thinks-
thing.
It's the same answer.
That is a list. That is an issue we
It's the same
must
goddamn answer.
solve. We can't leave it to Illinois. We can't leave it to Minnesota. We can't leave it to Illinois. We must
You
solve
said my
that
state
issue
twice.
with a 15-week
You
limit.
can't leave it to
How do you
Illinois.
choose your candidate after this? Who performed the best? Who did the
Keep my
speech the best?
Biden and Kamala Harris,
Keep
are
my
they for
state out of your
38 weeks?
mouth.
Are they for 39 weeks? Are they for 40 weeks? Because that's what the media needs to be asking.
All right, another issue is America and the crime crisis, the homelessness crisis.
Oh my
American
God.
cities are in decline. People are moving out as
It's a
homelessness,
little bit more.
drugs,
It's going to get us
crime
more
move in.
agitated to respond.
There are problems
This
accelerated.
will get me infuriated.
They did accelerate during the pandemic and
Oh,
are still
yes.
rising, actually.
Murders in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, all up 30% between 2019 and 2022. Homelessness is up 11%, the largest jump in recorded history. Vice President Pence, a lot of this began in the COVID era. How much of what we're seeing happening around this country is a result of those COVID lockdowns? And is your administration in part to blame for how we got here?
Well, I think what's in part to blame is the Democrats been talking about defunding the police for the last 5 years. And we ought to be funding law enforcement, particularly in our major cities at unprecedented levels. I mean, it's extraordinary
They
to
are
think about the
funding the
violence
police.
that's claiming
My
innocent
former
What he's
lives
doing-
every week in every
What
major
he's
city in this
doing
country.
is
And yet Democrats and
the
liberal
question is, you
prosecutors in
guys
major
had
metropolitan
lockdowns, Donald
areas
Trump
continue to
administration,
work
and he
out their
completely
fancy
said, I'm not
cards
answering that shit. Let's talk about defund the police.
bail
He
reform
completely
and go
pivoted.
easy. What we need is strong commitment to law enforcement. We need leadership in Washington, D.C. that'll marshal the resources of the states, marshal the resources of the American people. But let me also say it's about opportunity. I mean, a lot of people don't know that those Trump-Pence tax cuts that we got signed into law go away at the end of 2025 if we don't have a Republican president and a Republican.
So these
House and a
capitalists are
Republican
bragging
Senate.
about the police state that they're building. But people think China and Russia is an authoritarian state.
those
They're
taxes.
bragging about the police state,
And we're
fam.
going to close the federal department, block grant all that funding back to the
That guy
states
has
with a
zero
growing
chance.
economy
He
and
has
educational
zero
choice
chance of
and,
going
and law
anywhere.
enforcement.
He
We
is-
will bring our cities back.
Governor Christie, another
has
issue.
no
This
ability to
weekend here in
inspire at
Milwaukee,
all.
Reports say there were 30 shootings, and a number of them including kids. Add that to the big increase in school shootings around the country. Democrats blame this crisis on easy access to guns. They also blame Republicans for blocking gun control legislation.
Yeah, both of
What
you are
would
blaming
President
bullshit. The issue is
You
capitalism.
know, I'm proud of the fact, Brett, that I'm the only person along with Governor Hutchinson up on this stage who's actually running United States Attorney's Office. I ran the 5th largest office in America in a state where there is significant urban crime. And the problem is not going to be solved by more money. The problem is that these prosecutors in these localities in the states are refusing to do their job and to arrest violent criminals. So what a President Christie would do is appoint an attorney general.
So they're
who would
saying that
instruct
our police
each
state,
of the
Nick,
93 U.S. attorneys
is soft.
there to take over.
That's what
We
he's
need
saying.
prosecution
Our
of
police state
violent
is
crime
soft.
in
But
every
our
one of those
prosecution
cities
is
to
soft.
do
We got
so.
these freaking
We have plenty of room
soft-ass
in the federal prisons
prosecutors.
to lock up these violent criminals and
Clown
clean up
shit.
what's going on all across.
Our prison beds are
these
full, and we
individual
lock up
cities.
1/4 of the world's prison population. But Chris Christie is spreading the myth that we don't arrest
criminals
people.
understand is
Absurd.
that the laws apply to everybody. And when Hunter Biden fills out a fake application, a false application for a gun permit, and then is facing a 10-year mandatory minimum, which was mandated by legislation sponsored by his father. And then you have a Justice Department that walks away from those charges. We're telling people that the law doesn't apply to everybody. In a Christie administration, he would go to jail for 10 years.
What about a President Ramaswamy? What does a President Ramaswamy do about guns?
So the reality is we have a crime wave in this country and we know how to fix it. The question is, do we actually have the spine to do it? More cops in the streets who are on the streets able to do their jobs without looking over their shoulder for getting sued. And we also have a
That
mental
means
health
they want to be
epidemic
able to
in this
be
country.
reckless and not
Just
have
over the
any
same period that we have
responsibility.
closed
laying in
mental
their
health
lap.
institutions, we have seen a spike in violent crime. Do we have the spine to bring them back? I think we should. As president, I will. But it's not just drugging up people in those psychiatric institutions with Zoloft and Seroquel. It's a deeper issue. I think faith-based approaches can play a role here too. We're in the middle of a national identity crisis. And I say this as a member of my
So he's talking about a crime wave that we have, but NYPD, LAPD, and other police departments are making record amount. They got a record budget. So how do increasing the budgets solve the problem when they got record budgets?
Mayor Lightfoot
What we
gave,
really
former
need
Mayor
is a
Lightfoot gave
tonal
so
reset
much
from
money
the
to the
top,
CPD.
saying that this is what it means to be an American. Yes, we will stand for the rule of law. Yes, we will close the southern border where criminals are coming in every day. And yes, we will back law enforcement because we remember who we really are. And that's also how we address that mental health epidemic in the next generation that is directly leading to violent crime across this country.
Governor DeSantis, really quickly. Governor DeSantis.
We don't have an identity crisis, Vivek. We're not looking for a new national identity. The American people are the most faith-filled, freedom-loving, idealistic, hardworking people the world has ever known.
Man, Mike, you haven't been outside your
Mike, I think
mama's
the
house for
difference
some
is
time,
you
buddy.
might have some others like you may have on the stage. It's Morning in America speech. It is not Morning in America. We live in a dark moment, and we have to confront the fact that we're in an internal sort of cold cultural civil
You
war,
are
and we have to
equating the
recognize
American
that
people
in order
with the
to actually
failed
win.
government in Washington, D.C. We just need government as good as our people again.
So let me just finish addressing that slogan because I don't know what that slogan means. We need to shut down the administrative state. And Mark, that's actually how we translate it.
Crime has been on the rise in Florida, Governor DeSantis. How do you stop crime?
Well, actually, crime's at a 50-year low
Not
in
in-
Florida.
not in Miami.
We're happy with that. Well, the statewide, it's a 50-year low. And so here's the thing. these hollowed out cities, this is a symptom of America's decline. And one of the biggest reasons is because you have George Soros funding these radical left-wing district attorneys. They get into office and they say they're not going to prosecute crimes they disagree with. The inmates are running the asylum. There's one
These
guy
people
in
are
this
trying to
entire
act like
country
our
that's ever
system
done
of
anything about that.
criminalization
Me.
isn't
When we had
insane
two of
and
these district
unhinged.
attorneys in Florida
They're talking
elected
about
with
they
Soros
need to be
funding
more
who said they
unhinged.
wouldn't do their job, I removed them from their posts. They are gone. And as president, we are going to go after all of these people because they are hurting the quality of life and they are victimizing innocent people in every corner of this country. And it will stop when I get into office.
Okay, one more here before the break, Governor Burgum.
Martha, I just thought it was interesting. You asked your question about the problems we're having in big cities. Nobody ever asked the question of what
Somebody
about the
said he
crime wave in
reminds
small towns.
them of Angus.
Because in a small town, neighbors help neighbors. People understand each other. If a farmer gets sick, everybody comes together and helps them get the crop off.
Angus
There's accountability. There's transparency. One thing that I think this country could use is somebody in the White House that understands small town values, because that's our road back to get this country on track again.
As former head of the DEA, I understand the drug crisis in America. And right
Former
now,
head of
whenever
the
you look
DEA,
at the
that is not a good
challenges in
thing,
our
sir.
inner city, there's three simple words that would be helpful. One, enforce the law when it comes to crime.
Maybe the CIA.
Secondly, let's deal with the challenge of fentanyl. And it's both about stopping the fentanyl coming from Mexico, but it's also about education of our young
The
people,
CIA works with
making
the
sure that
Mexican
we
drug
have
cartels.
the tools that are needed for addiction counseling. That's what we expanded in Arkansas as well. Whenever you look at the underlying challenge of America, though, no one likes to see an America with smash and grab in our inner cities. As president of the United States, that will stop. It starts at the top with the respect for our justice system that a former president who's under indictment has undermined.
He's the first one to bring it up.
Judges, by attacking prosecutors, by attacking the system and saying he's aggrieved. And so we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law, and it starts at the top with the president of the United States.
He brought up Trump. He brought up Trump.
So
There you
speaking
go.
of that, right now you are looking live at Fulton County Jail, where former President Donald Trump will be processed tomorrow. So next, the candidates will have an opportunity to talk about the coming trials of Donald Trump.
Talk about Trump.
Okay. It's
Trump.
gonna get
Trump.
interesting. It's gonna get interesting.
Trump. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
So you're gonna have Asa and Christie. This is the part of the debate they've been waiting for. But can we talk about the absurdity of this debate? These people are running. These people are running to be commander-in-chief, the leader, the head of the executive branch. Not one question on foreign policy thus far.
And the only person who had any kind of decent answer was DeSantis, but he wasn't allowed to finish his response to what happened to the people of Maui. I mean, again, that's a little bit of a stretch. I want to be fair here. He's the only one that kind of gave a decent, coherent answer compared to everyone else.
How are people thinking they are popular supporting people like Vivek when he's bragging about increasing the police state and has said one thing to address the need of the working class people? What is one thing these people have said in concern in how they will address the working class issue? No one talked about what they're going to do to Maui. Just, we got to increase the police state. Yeah, we know there's going to be civil unrest because the system is failing people under both administrations, whether we have Republican or Democrat. And they talk about, they show clips of people saying, man, we're struggling to eat. We're struggling to feed our families right now. Who do you guys think in charge of these states? A lot of people live in red states.
Democrats. Yeah.
A lot
Democrats
of people
and
live in blue
Republicans.
states. How you guys going to just blame down Biden? It's Biden's fault, but you guys are all part of it. You guys part of the same system. You guys believe in the same ideology. If you guys in charge, you guys do corporate bailout the same way Joe Biden did.
Well,
if you guys in charge, you guys funnel money to the military industrial complex the same way Joe Biden did. But go ahead, kid. I know you want to try.
Well, the thing is, again, they're using same talking points that we've seen our progressive lawmakers use. What would Medicare for all mean for you? What would student debt for mean for you? What they want to do is just, again, intensify security around the border, all the while ignoring the fact, why is there a migration crisis? Because we're doing coups and regime change wars and a ridiculous war on drugs that's causing political, economic, and social instability in Central and South America. And when you have cartels and warlords and tyrants and dictators rise up and start exterminating or going to war against each other, of course, you're going to have a migration crisis of people coming to the United States. And of course, why is there a homelessness crisis? Because one, first of all, medical bankruptcy is the leading cause of homelessness. Two, we have an opioid crisis because, again, lack of economic opportunities is causing despair and depression amongst a lot of Americans. And we have, again, who's buying the drugs due to the war on drugs? Mr. and Mrs. America, not some cartoon villain on a Saturday morning show. Yeah. So the thing is, the prison industrial complex is booming. You have the war on drugs. And then, again, what's the whole talk of it? Again, funding police officers. Look, I get it. First responders, people want to be safe, right? But the thing is, the United States government has been causing this instability and insecurity. And we saw this before with prohibition in the 1930s when they tried to make alcohol illegal. What gave the rise to the goddamn syndicate, the mafia? It was this ridiculous prohibition on alcohol. It was stupid then, it's stupid now.
Okay, you had, was it Asa? Someone was like, they was part of DEA. Right?
Yeah, that was Asa.
That was Asa. He was like, I'm part of the DEA. He was like, bro, you should have let that part of the question, your answer out. Like,
that's what I was saying.
Like the DEA lost the war on drugs, fam. Like you failed. Your policy failed.
Who's buying the drugs? Mr. and Mrs. America. And Johnson & Johnson is one of the leading causes of this goddamn opioid crisis. Hey, Republican lawmakers, are you going to do something about Johnson & Johnson? Because they're the ones responsible for that crap. No, has everyone forgot about that?
Let me put this video in before I'm watching to make sure I can put this in before it comes back. I found an interesting part that we can listen to. Let's listen to.
And so if the protest didn't work, you got elected anyway. Yeah. Impeachment didn't work twice, obviously. Indictment is not working. Your poll numbers go up. When they raided Mar-a-Lago in August of last year, your numbers went up. They can indict you 20 times and you're not going to lose the Republican primary because of that.
Well, so it makes it look even more ridiculous. I mean, the 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out, it's an escalation, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So what's next after, try to put you in prison for the rest of your life? That's not working. So
So what is the point of this? Is it Tucker Carlson going to lick his ass the whole interview?
He's trying to finesse. No, he's trying to finesse an answer. I'll play maybe 30 seconds and then we're going to switch back to the debate because they're about to come back. They haven't started questioning yet, but they came back.
Let's play 30 more seconds to hear his answer. Don't get enough credit for how smart they are. And I'm not sure I would have said this 10 years ago, but they get it. They really get it. When somebody gets indicted, your poll numbers go down. When somebody gets indicted, you announce, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be leaving to spend time with my family and to fight for the rest of my life.
Okay, let's stop it. Let's go.
Yeah, they I
thought they were talking Trump, so I wanted to play that. I thought they were going to talk Trump next. But let's go to foreign policy. Let's take this down. I'll take this.
Counts. He will be passed this tomorrow.
This one down at 9. Let's put it up if they're getting the foreign policy, especially. This is what we've been waiting for.
Signed a pledge.
Is the foreign policy part of
the
this?
eventual Republican nominee.
Wait. It's about
Trump. Former President Trump is convicted in a court of law.
It's fine if it's not Trump.
Support him as your party's choice.
I think they said
Please raise your hand if you would.
Wait.
I
missed it.
Just hold on. So just to be clear. Governor Christie, you were kind of late to the game there, but you raised your hand.
No, I'm doing this. Look, I'm doing this.
And I know you didn't.
Whoa. No, come.
Is there? Can you back it up like 30 seconds so we can see what they're talking about?
Yeah, I didn't.
I can't back it up.
To stop normalizing this conduct. Okay. Now, whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong.
Okay, good. It works well. They're talking about the Trump charges.
The office of President of the United States. And this is the great thing about this country. booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change
Now,
the truth.
if you look at what's scrolling at the bottom, this is what he's here for. He's the liberal plant.
President Trump, I
He's the
believe,
mouthpiece
was the best
of the
president
Democratic
of the
Party on the
21st
stage.
century.
That's what Chris Christie works for.
Hold on. Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man.
He called it out. That's what we're talking about. He's the mouthpiece of the Democratic establishment on the GOP debate stage.
They could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States.
TJ, I told you they were going to say that.
Didn't you call it out? Didn't you call that out?
Yeah. Where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, Governor.
He killed him. You know, let me take
the line.
You make me laugh because you sit here in an answer.
You're not going to beat Vivek.
People getting crushed, man.
Like Vivek is like us. We're able to just on the fly just come up. He's like that.
Go ahead, Governor Christie.
That's why he's laughing.
Hold on.
That's why he put out a video playing tennis as his debate
to spend doing this, the less time they can talk about issues you want to talk about. So let's
don't
just get through this section.
Don't tell police. You sit here talking about how you want to stand up for the rule of law.
Yes.
And law and order. And the fact is that it can't be selective. In your book, you had much different things to say about Donald Trump than you're saying here tonight.
That's not true.
Well, it is very true.
That is not true.
It's very true. I read it,
Because
and
there's
I
a
know.
difference
Look,
between bad behavior and illegal behavior, Chris. And you as a prosecutor should know better.
You know what? I know a lot better.
There's a difference between bad behavior.
Bro, Morning Joe is going to be
than
in
you
shambles,
do.
CJ.
You've never done it like
Yeah, I
you've
know.
never done
'Cause
anything.
he's not
going to
match
advance
Vivek.
the interest
Vivek,
of this government.
this is
except
light
to put
work to
yourself
Vivek.
forward as a candidate tonight. And here's the thing: we've stood up for law and order. I did it as U.S. attorney. I did it as governor, and I am not going to bow to anyone when we have a president of the United States who disrespects the Constitution. He said.
You work for him, baby.
He said,
you work for him.
He said,
Martha, have to call out the truth.
Martha, it's important to say that the president said, Donald Trump said, it's okay to suspend the Constitution. Now, the oath you take is to preserve, protect, and defend, not suspend.
Morning Joe is
going to
have this on loop tomorrow.
Regardless of the political pressure.
We have another question for you. We're going to get everyone in on this issue,
He's gonna
but I have
be
another
the first
question.
one.
I have another question. Hold on, you will. All right. So President Trump's former vice president is on this stage tonight. He has faced hecklers on the campaign trail over his actions on January the 6th.
Oh,
On that day, the vice president moved forward with the certification of the election. So do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing, Senator Scott? Do you believe he did the right thing?
Absolutely. He did the right thing. Number one. Number
Clown
two,
shit. This is a thing in the GOP.
we should be
clown shit.
we should be asking
Still haven't
ourselves
talked about anything,
a bigger question about
That's
the
loading.
weaponization of the Department of Justice. When I'm president, the first thing I'll do is fire Merrick Garland. Second thing I'll do, fire Christopher
Everybody already
Wray,
knows that.
because we need Lady Justice to wear a blindfold. Without that, no one has confidence in our justice system. 17% of Republicans have confidence in our Department of Justice. Here's why. We keep seeing not only the weaponization of the Department of Justice against political opponents, but also against parents who show up at school board meetings. They're called, under this DOJ, they're called domestic terrorists.
Firing Christopher
that's
That has nothing to do with anything. Tim, focus.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Focus.
Let me finish my comments.
Yes.
Not only that, in addition to that, we see the SWAT team show up at pro-life activist homes with guns drawn because this deal
You mean like
now
they
you
showed up
criticize
at
their
the
power,
at the
uses
stop
their
city
authority,
at the
not
stop
just
top
against
city
political
people
opponents,
who were
but against
raising bail
conservatives
funds?
and
What about
conservative
that, Tim
causes.
Scott?
It is time for a change in America, and I will
Now they
bring that
concerned about the
change
police
to the
state.
greatest nation on God's green earth.
We have an
But
important
Governor
question still to
DeSantis, do you
answer.
believe that Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th?
So here's what we need to do. We need to end the weaponization of these federal agents.
But that's
And
not
I
the
will
question.
do that.
They're completely
I know, but here's the
disregarding the
thing.
question.
This election is not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January 20th of 2025 when the next president is going to take office. I know what the Democrats would like to do. They want to talk about all these other issues, but we've got to focus on your future. We've got to focus on reversing the decline of our
haven't done that
country.
yet.
Right.
I learned in the military, I was assigned with U.S. Navy SEALs in Iraq, that you focus on the mission
talk about
above all
Guantanamo
else.
Bay?
You can't get distracted. So Republicans, we've got to look forward and we've got to make sure that we're bringing the message that can win in
Vice
November
President Pence,
Did not answer
2024.
the question. Did not answer the question.
Vice President Pence, what do
You
you
didn't answer the question,
what do you
DeSantis.
think,
The
Vice
States
President?
is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I think the American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day.
Man, he was a legal advisor to SEAL Team
So
1.
answer the question.
Why is this the thing?
Before.
So yes.
Why are we? Mike did his duty. I got no beef with him. But here's the thing: is this what we're going to be focusing on
I'm relieved.
going forward? The rehashing of this? I'll tell you,
Governor
the
DeSantis,
Democrats would love that,
we
and they
spent-
will win if we
Governor
let them get
DeSantis,
away with it. I'm not letting Biden hang out in the basement this time. We're going to run him ragged around this country, and we're going to hold him accountable.
Let me
2
just say,
hours
Governor
in, still no
DeSantis, we spent an
conversation
hour
about
talking
foreign
about
policy.
policy. Former President Trump is beating you by 30, 40 points in many polls. So it is a factor in the GOP primary. Governor Hutchinson, you did not raise your hand.
I did not raise my hand because there's an important issue we as a party have to face. And over a year ago, I said that Donald Trump was morally disqualified from being president again as a result of what happened on January 6th. More people are understanding the importance of
died,
that, including
Ash.
conservative
Ash.
legal scholars who says he may be
0.7%.
disqualified under the 14th Amendment from being president again as a result of the insurrection. This is something that could disqualify him
Bro, this
under
primary
our
is over,
rules
man.
and
This is over.
under the
Terrible.
Constitution.
It's terrible.
And so obviously, I'm not going to support somebody who's been convicted of a serious felony or who is disqualified under our Constitution, and that's consistent with
I think all of
RNC
them
rules.
suck. This
And I hope
debate.
everybody would
This
agree
is
with
over.
me.
We're gonna get to a lot more time.
We're going to move on. No, we're going to.
Martha, can I answer the question?
Can I get in on that?
Okay, I'd like to answer.
You,
No,
I've
you're gonna
already
like
been in
my
on
answer. Hang
it,
in
Vice
there.
President Pence.
All right, I'd like to answer the question
Go
you
ahead.
asked and not give a
You've
pre-canned
already
speech.
been on it, Mike.
Mike Pence stood for the Constitution,
Ah.
and he deserves not.
Morning
grudging
Joe's going to have
credit.
that on Luke tomorrow.
He
Watch
deserves
Nick.
our thanks as
It's still not
Americans
going to help out
for
Chris Christie's
putting
numbers.
his
They're
office
pathetic.
in
He's
the Constitution of
3.3%.
the
down
United
after this.
States before personal, political, and unfair pressure. And the argument that we need to have in this party before we can move on to the issues that Ron talked about is we have to dispense with the person who said that we need to suspend the Constitution to put forward his
why
political career.
he's here.
Mike Pence said no,
He is
and he
here to
deserves
say
credit
what
for it.
Democrats want to say on the
Governor
debate
Haley, we
stage.
haven't heard from you on this. Do you agree?
That's what this guy is here
Do you
for.
agree that Vice President Pence did the right thing that day or not?
I do think that Vice President Pence did the right thing. And I do think that we need to give him credit for that. But what I will also tell you is, look, I mean, when it comes to whether President Trump should serve or not, I trust the American people. Let them vote. Let them decide. But what they will tell you is that it is time for a new generational conservative leader. We have to look at the fact that 3/4 of Americans don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden. And we have to face the fact that Trump is the most disliked politician in America. We can't win a general election that way.
You lost them. You lost them, Nikki.
You lost. These 2 and 3 percenters, man.
Happy to answer the
They're
question.
not getting
Mike
their
Pence did
game
the
up.
right thing on January 6th. But I want to say you started
Who
off the
is
top
this
of this
guy
hour
again?
saying we're going to talk about
the fuck is
China,
this?
Ukraine, education.
We are.
China is the number one threat to our country, and
Why?
every minute
That's
that
not-
the
oh, here we
Democrat
go.
candidates spend
We
talking
threw
about
China
the
in
past
there.
instead about the future
threw
is time.
China.
That is just you know who loves it? Biden loves it, but China loves it when we're talking about the past.
As promised, we were going to spend a few
China's at
questions
bricks
on it,
right
let
now.
people say what they wanted to say. And now, indeed, we are moving on to the subject.
The
of
U.S. has committed
Finally.
77.
Can I speak on this
Finally.
issue? I was
You
kind of
did
involved.
No.
You answered on this.
You did
You did
say
answer.
something.
Yeah.
We thought you were done, but you
No, I
please.
wasn't done.
Well, Mike, why don't you say this? Join me
Yeah.
in making a
on.
commitment that on day one you would pardon Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate on the stage who had the courage to actually say it.
Wow.
That
See,
is
this is why
nation
Vivek,
forward.
he knows when to come in with the right stuff.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
will be
Vivek probably
convicted of these
boosted up his
crimes.
numbers.
You should be able to make a commitment. The same justice system that was this
Vivek, here's the
corrupt.
difference between you and me.
Yeah, I'm not a
I've
professional
actually-
politician. That's the
I've
difference. Who can
actually,
answer a question?
I've actually given pardons when I was governor of the state of Indiana. It usually follows a finding of guilt and contrition by the individual that's been convicted.
Pence and Trump pardoned war
look,
criminals.
if I'm president of the United States, we'll give fair consideration to any pardon request. But if I may, it's not about looking back at January 2021. It's about January 20th, 2017. I put my left hand on Ronald Reagan's Bible. I raised my
Oh
right
my
hand.
God.
And I took
He's
an oath
doing Ronald Reagan. What else
to
you gonna
support and defend the
do?
Constitution of the United States. And it ended with a prayer, so help me God. It was a promise that I made to the American people,
Boo.
but I also made it to my Heavenly Father.
Boo.
Oh
Every
my
day
God.
before you
I'm wondering why this guy is where he's at.
Congress
This guy
to
is
make it
terrible.
clear whether or not they'll do the same
Nerd.
if they earn this job and the confidence of the American people. Now, look, I've made it clear. I
crowd is
had
dead.
hoped that the issues surrounding the 2020 election and the controversies around January 6th had not come to this, had not come to
Get outta
criminal
here.
proceedings.
Shut up. Shush.
I would rather they had been resolved by the American
Religious
people
nerd.
and the American people alone. But no one's above the law. And President Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence that every American is entitled to. And we will make sure and extend that to him. But the American people deserve to know
You couldn't get applause.
that the president asked me in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken. He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I had no
Vice
right to
President Pence.
overturn the election, and Kamala
outta
Harris
here.
will have no
Look at
right
this
to
man.
overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Thank you,
It's
Vice
such a
President
virtuous
Pence.
thing to be like, I choose the It's such
Now we are
a.
moving on to other issues.
Oh, well,
Please.
The U.S. has
Please.
committed
please.
nearly $77 billion in
Okay, here we
aid to
go.
Ukraine.
Here we
Let's go.
go.
Let's go.
The administration
quiet.
is now
Hold on.
asking
I'm muting
Congress
my
for
mic.
$24 billion more. Regardless of that, the specifics of that plan, is there anyone on stage who would not support the increase of more funding to Ukraine?
The weapons
would not
manufacturers
support it.
are
Europe
looking.
needs to step up. I mean, I would
Only
have Europe
two?
step up and do their job.
Who was
Mr.
it?
Ramaswamy.
Oh, I see
Vivek.
Vivek.
Yeah. Hold
But
on.
you're saying you would not too, Governor DeSantis?
I will have Europe pull their weight.
What?
Right now, they're not doing
You
that.
would not
And I
support
think
more
we need
funding?
to
No to
do,
me.
and I think our support should be contingent on them
Germany is
doing it.
depleted.
And I would have
Wait,
support in
wait.
China
Let
to
them
be
finish.
able to take
Europe is
take
depleted.
China.
Morning
and
Joe is
do
going to
what we
be
need to
so
do with
sad
China.
with this answer
Mr.
tomorrow.
Ramaswamy, you would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine.
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous. That we are protecting
The audience is loving
against
it.
an invasion across somebody else's border when we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving
course we have to
Russia
win.
further
This is
into
what Ron
China's
DeSantis
hands.
wanted to
The
do,
Russia-China
but
alliance
Vivek
is the
is
single
going
greatest
further
threat we
left
face.
than he
and I
is,
find it
or
offensive
willing to.
that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington.
Yeah, Vivek, he's winning to me.
Secure
He's
our own
winning this
border
debate.
instead of somebody else's.
He was referring-
And the reality is, this is also how we project strength
And he
by
says
making
we're
America
using
strong.
somebody
They got
Okay.
surge over
We're
here.
gonna go-
We heard the names. Governor
let's
Christie
go to-
first.
Yeah, he's going to surge.
I
Hold
did
on, wait,
go to
wait.
Ukraine, and I went to Ukraine because I wanted to see for myself
Boo.
what Vladimir Putin's army was
Boo.
doing to the free Ukrainian people. And let me tell you,
my
I want you all to
God.
look around this arena tonight and imagine that every one of these seats was filled. And if every one of them was filled, there would still be 2,500 more children outside to make over 20,000 who have been abducted, stolen, ripped from their mothers and
This
fathers,
has
and
been
brought back to
debunked
Russia
many
to be programmed
times.
to fight their own families. They have gouged out people's eyes, cut off their ears, and shot people in the back of the head, men, and then gone into
World's
those
smallest
homes
violin.
and raped the daughters and the wives.
Now
who
tell us
were
about
left
Banderai.
as widows
Banderai.
and orphans. This is the Vladimir Putin. This is the Vladimir Putin who
This is the movie
Donald
version
Trump
of
called
Vladimir
brilliant
Putin.
and a genius. If we don't stand up against this type of autocratic killing in the world, we will be next.
You understand? You're not reading the room, Christie. You're not
Read
reading
the
the room,
room.
Christie.
I have a question for Governor Haley. We'll come back.
Vice President Pence was mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, let me be clear. Anybody that thinks that we can't solve the problems here in the United States and be the leader of the free world has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth.
Why aren't we doing it?
We can do
What
both, Vivek.
history do we have of
We've
that
done both.
happening?
We've been the leader of the free
What
world and the
history do
arsenal
we
of
have of
democracy
that?
for years. The Reagan Doctrine years ago made it clear. We said, if
Oh
you're
my
willing
God,
to fight the
Reagan
communists on
again.
your soil, we'll give you the means to fight them there so our troops don't have to fight them. Vivek, if we do the giveaway that
This
you
is
want to
called
give
the
to
proxy
Putin to
war
give him
you're
his
you're
land,
talking about.
It's not going to be too long before he rolls across a NATO border, and frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive.
Oh my God, he's saying this out loud. I want the Ukrainians to die. He's saying this out loud on a GOP debate.
I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990. You talked about the communists, and the real communists that we have to address right now
have
is
any
the.
idea what Vladimir
let me
Putin's
hear.
aims
I
are.
want to hear what he's
Now I
saying.
actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere.
You've made
of
your point,
influence.
Vice President.
I'm sorry if I insulted him by calling him a communist. He is a dictator and a murderer. And the
He
United
thinks
States
this
of
does
America
anything.
needs to
He thinks-
stand
what does he think
against
this does?
authoritarianism.
What does he think this does?
30 seconds.
Respond. The real threat we face today is communist China. And we are driving Russia
never mind.
further
There it
into
is. There
China's
you go.
arms.
Communist
the
China.
Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat we face. Nobody in either political party is talking about it. And I am the only non-neocon on this stage who will keep us out of war.
Mr. Vice President, we can't hear. Mr. Vice
Is
President,
to give Russia
Mr. Vice
every
They
President.
cut him off. You notice they cut him
Give him a
off?
promise that
They didn't give him
Ukraine will
30
never
seconds.
be
They
in
gave him like
NATO,
10 seconds
and then
because what he was
somehow
saying.
Mr. Vice President.
China will not think about taking Taiwan. We achieve peace through strength.
Mr. Vice
And America
President.
needs to stand.
These
for
are
freedom.
clowns.
Okay.
These are
Here
clowns.
we go.
I think we need to reestablish some ground rules here.
When we
folks.
hear this bell,
Yes.
that means your time's
We're
done.
done.
So, Mr. Vice President, we appreciate your aggressiveness here. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Mr. Ramaswamy, you were mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
So the reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America. And I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq War, the same people who took us into the Vietnam War, you cannot start another no-win war. And I do not want to get to the point where we're sending our military resources abroad when we could be better using them here at home to protect our own borders, protect the homeland.
All right.
That will be my top priority in foreign
I
policy.
think we gave you
protect
more
this
than the 30
homeland.
seconds in the rebut. So I do want to get to some other
What?
people because
Fuck
everybody,
up.
we respect everybody's time here. So Governor Haley, you did not raise your hand, meaning that you would support more funding for the Ukraine war. You have said of Governor DeSantis that you didn't appreciate it when he initially called it a territorial dispute. Why?
First of all, the American president needs to have moral clarity. They need to know the difference between right and wrong. They need to know the difference between good and evil. When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to Ukraine, less than 3.5% of our defense budget has been given to Ukraine. If you look at the percentages
just know
per
how much we spend on
GDP,
war.
11 of
Your
the
fangs are
European
showing,
countries
Nikki.
have given more than the U.S. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before the Olympics, and named themselves unlimited partners. A win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that. Ukraine is the first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is the front line of defense.
You have them go die for your war.
Russia,
That's what you do to
Russia
friends.
Takes Ukraine, Poland, and the Baltics are next. That's a world war. We're trying
That's
to prevent war.
ridiculous.
Look at what Putin did today. He killed Prigozhin. When I
You
was
no, you don't know.
Oh, I can't wait till we cover that story because I have
this
I have
guy
a
is a murderer.
That's
and
I
you
do
are
don't know.
choosing
U.S.
a
that did
murderer
that. I believe it's the
over a
U.S. that did that.
American country.
Because what was Prigozhin doing lately? He was trying to help him in Nigeria. That's what Prigozhin was doing lately, and that's why I think he was taken out.
Came off of it, but you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week,
You want
Nikki.
to go and defund Israel? You want to
Okay,
get
let me
Taiwan
address
to
that. I'm
China?
glad you brought that
Yeah,
up.
defund Israel. Oh, this is what you were hoping for, Nick.
This one here.
The Israel talk
Nikki.
between these
You're
two.
watching
So the
you
reality
make
is-
America less safe. You have no
Let me-
foreign policy experience, and it shows.
And you know what? The
It
foreign
shows.
policy experience that you all have shows in the pointless wars.
Why are you
about
sharing
Israel. I
that?
have to address that. So our relationship with Israel will never be stronger.
They got APAC everywhere in there.
Yeah,
But it's not
APAC's
quite a
everywhere.
Relationship. It is
How
a
come they-
friendship. And you know what friends do? Friends help each other stand on their own 2 feet. So I will lead Abraham Accords 2.0. I will partner with Israel to make sure Iran never is nuclear armed.
What a
But you know
weak
what I
man.
love about Israel? And I've been there
Yeah,
probably
immediately
in the
back
last 10
down.
years more than most people on this stage. You know what I love about them? I love their border policies. I love their tough on crime
Nikki
policies.
Haley made them
I
back
love
down.
that they
What
have
a
a national identity and an iron dome to protect their homeland. And so, yes, I want to learn from the friends that we're supporting. And what puzzles
you wanna
me
cut the
is,
aid
I want to
off.
learn
And
from
let me
those and
tell
apply
you,
those to protect
it's
our
not
homeland,
that
Nikki.
Israel
That is
needs
the answer.
America.
we move
America
on?
needs Israel.
Okay,
They
Governor
are the front
DeSantis,
line of defense.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned in the territorial
It's
dispute.
sickening.
Not only
No, it's not a
So as
territorial dispute
President of
either.
the United States, your first obligation is to defend our country and its people. And that means you're sending all this money, but you're not doing what we need to do to secure our own border. We have tens of thousands of people
We can
who
do
are
both
being
at the
killed because,
same
well, we're
time.
not handling
And
both.
we can do
And so
both
I am
at
going
the
to
same
declare it a
time.
national emergency. I'm not going to send troops to Ukraine, but I am going to send them to our southern border. When these drug pushers are
Come
bringing
on,
fentanyl
man.
across the border, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to use force, and we're going to leave them stone cold.
I can't wait to
dead.
break this
we're
down
actually
later.
going to move on to China.
We're gonna break
We're
this
gonna
down
leave
later.
them
China.
stone cold dead.
Governor Berger. China has the biggest navy in the world, the biggest army in the world. Now they have warships off the coast of Alaska.
How dare
are
they?
threatening Taiwan. In coming years, China will have 1,500 nuclear warheads, it's believed. The U.S. just arrested 2 sailors accused of spying for China within our military. So the question is, how would you deter China as a president?
Here we go.
Berger?
Well, this is the number one issue we're facing. And of course, we haven't been talking about it. And we act like that letting Russia win in the Ukraine is like a gimme as opposed to a gift to China. Russia has become China's gas station. But how would we do it? The Biden administration is a complete fail. China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day, more than any other country in the world. They do not even have all the food they need to feed everybody in that country. So they don't have energy security or food security. But the Biden administration sends Blinken, Yellen over there. They're over there. They don't even bring up energy because they're too busy trying to kill the U.S. energy here. And what we need to do is not meetings, not press releases, because something that would send a lot more than a press release is actually Harpoon missiles. We need anti-ship missiles on Taiwan. The way that you have a war never start, which is the goal The way you have peace through strength is that you actually have strength. You actually have deterrence. And what we have in
through
what
bullying.
we got going on in Ukraine
what
is
it
an
is.
example of when deterrence fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he greenlighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move. And we have to be strong, and we have to be strong both in Ukraine, and we can solve the southern border. Absolutely, we can do that, because guess what? There's only 19,855 authorized people for the Border Patrol, but they're not all staff because the Biden administration doesn't enforce law enforcement. But Biden administration wanted to put 87,000 people in the IRS as opposed to giving the money in the support we need to our own Border Patrol.
Sadly, this guy is not going to move a lick. Yeah, he's not going to move at all.
He doesn't even have a full percentage point.
Let's fire
At all. He's
the
not moving at all.
87,000 IRS agents and hire or double the number of Border Patrol agents. I just left Yuma, Arizona about 2 weeks ago.
What are we talking about? Because nobody's answering the question at hand. I thought we were talking about Ukraine or China.
Led to the death of 70,000
They have to deflect to make themselves look
Americans
better.
because of fentanyl. Plus 6 million illegal crossings since President Biden has taken office, and 200 people on our national security watch list have been caught at our border. How many have not been caught at our southern border? If we just spend $10 billion, we could finish the wall.
Big budget
for $5 billion more. We could have the military-grade technology to surveil our southern border to stop the flow of fentanyl and save 70,000
Maybe the CIA
Americans
should start
a
working with the
year.
Mexican drug
That
cartel.
should be the priority of this government. And as the next president of the United States, I will make that border wall complete.
There are many more questions on China. I do want
So
to.
he's building a wall.
I want to say
Building a big,
it's not
beautiful
just the
wall.
70,000
Mexico will
for
pay
fentanyl.
for it.
Lost 200,000 people to overdoses since Biden took office. That's 300 people a day. We're taking mass casualties, and that's a statistic, but these are sons and daughters, nieces and nephews that we're losing. We've got North Dakota troops down there flying night helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop these transnational criminal organizations. They've got better funding on their side than we've got on our side.
Speaking of which, Governor Hutchinson, images from earlier this month,
U.S.
Governor
government is the
Hutchinson,
biggest drug dealer.
Vice President Pence, images from earlier this month. Vice President Pence, it really doesn't help. I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
Earlier this month,
That guy's
images showed
terrible.
suspected cartel members crossing into Texas with rifles. Do you consider this an
Sure,
invasion?
that's legit.
Would you authorize lethal force along that border?
Oh, here we go.
There would be lethal force used by the Border Patrol, law enforcement as needed to protect the border. Absolutely. When you look at the military has to be used for intelligence gathering purposes. This is not unusual.
That
Whenever
doesn't
I
answer the
was
question.
in the Bush administration, we went down there and met with
You were in the
President
Bush
Vicente
administration?
Fox of
Ugh.
Mexico and asked his help in going after the cartels. And he looked at me and said, they're a problem to us as well. And so we joined together
right back.
and we took down the Ariana Felix brothers leading the Tijuana cartel. And that
I'm
made a
confused
difference.
on
Ramon
what the
was shot and
freaking
killed,
topic is,
And Ben
'cause
Amin was captured.
Everybody's kind of
Cooperation
talking
makes a
about
difference.
whatever
We
they want
cannot
to
be
talk
successful going
'Cause, well,
against the cartel.
This is
unless
debates 101. They want to make themselves
bring
shine
in
out.
Mexico as a partner. We have to use economic pressure to accomplish that. President Obrador has not been helpful, and we have to use economic pressure that this administration is not using. The rule of law has to matter on both sides of it.
Okay.
This is critical. I've done it. We know what needs to be done. The military has to be limited in its use. When after 9/11, we had the global war on terror.
Man, this
And
guy's
guess
pretty
what?
terrible.
We
Hey,
protected the
shush,
border at the
Hutchinson,
same
shush.
time. You can do both.
Okay, let's go to Governor DeSantis. So, as president, would you support sending U.S. Special Forces over the
Oh
border
my God.
into Mexico to take out
This is
fentanyl
unhinged.
labs,
This is just
take out
unhinged.
drug
They're
cartel
talking about
operations? Would you
starting a
support
war
that kind
with
of
Mexico.
American
This is
military
so
Yep.
unhinged.
use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing. The cartels are killing tens of thousands of our fellow citizens. You want to talk about a country in decline?
Killing
You have
tens of
cartels
thousands. This is a new
controlling
number I've never
a lot
heard.
of part of your southern border. We have to reestablish the rule of law, and we have to defend our people. The president of the United States has got to use all available powers as commander-in-chief to protect our country and to protect the people. So when they're coming across, yes, we're going to use lethal force. Yes, we reserve the right.
Yes, we're going to kill
operate.
those
How
damn
many more
brown
tens of
immigrants?
thousands are we going to let to die? I am sick.
This is
I've met
unhinged.
angel moms
It
throughout
is.
this country. I met a lady in Texas named
We have
Tracy.
to project that
and her
who's going to
son
be worse on
took
killing immigrants.
One Percocet,
guys,
that was laced
This
with
is
fentanyl.
unhinged.
One
Immediately
Percocet?
Matter of
died.
fact, talking
That
about
is
it.
happening all across this country because of the poison that they are bringing in. So,
So
as
the
president,
cartel has
would I
always
use
been a
force?
thing.
Would I treat
They're
them as
doing this
foreign
because
terrorist
AMLO is
organizations? You're
nationalizing
darn
lithium.
right I would.
It's
You know,
speaking
Vice
out
President
against
Yes,
NATO.
that
Vice President Pence,
Just real quick, so the cartel has always been a thing. Do not believe their bullshit. This is because Mexico is nationalizing lithium and they've been speaking out against U.S. imperialism, and war never ends. Don't believe them.
Look, we secured the southern border of the United States of America and reduced illegal immigration and
Mr.
asylum
Trump,
abuse by
that's your former boss.
90%. When Joe Biden took
What's
over,
weird
he
about
opened the southern border of the
Vice
United
Pence
States. And the wave of
candidacy,
humanity, the wave of
just like right
fentanyl,
now,
it's
we
been eloquently described here
brought
as
immigration
is a
down by, what
wave
have he
of
said, by 90%. Who?
Martha,
You and
yeah,
Trump? The guy you're running against?
Who is best prepared
Your
to be
good record that you're running on, Mike Pence, is,
And I have to tell
is
you,
the
with
guy
all
you're running
humility,
against.
I was there when
weird.
we negotiated through the government shutdown and got the funding available to build the wall. I was negotiating on Capitol Hill around the clock. I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy on behalf of the President of the United States. And AC, you're so right. It's because we used economic pressure to bring the Mexicans to the table, and they allowed us to have people wait in Mexico while they applied for asylum and ended asylum abuse overnight. We got the Mexicans to deploy their National Guard to their southern border and
But that
our
was
southern
Trump,
border as
not
never
you.
before. And I want to promise you, as President of the United States of America, I will engage Mexico the exact same way, and we will partner with the Mexican military, and we will hunt down and destroy the cartels that are claiming lives in the United
Also,
States.
Mexico wants to join BRICS. Is that true, Nick? Somebody
this
put that in the comments.
is
Maybe
that
that's
almost
another
7
reason they want to go
million
into
migrants
Mexico.
have
They want to
crossed
join
this
BRICS.
border, our southern border, during the
AMLO
Biden
spoke about it,
administration.
but it's not official.
So, Governor Christie,
no official
what would you
request, but AMLO
do
spoke about
about
it.
the 7 million who are here? How would you handle them? What would you do?
Look, Martha, the first thing we need to do is to stop any more from coming. That's the first thing we need to do. Then the next thing we need to do with the folks that are here is to, again, as we've talked about all night tonight, we have to have law and order in this country. We have to enforce the law. And what that means is to make sure that people who come here illegally are not rewarded for being here illegally. We have so many wonderful people from around the world who are waiting in line, following the law to try to come here and pursue the American dream. And those people are waiting and waiting and waiting because we haven't dealt with the problem of the folks who are here. We have to have them detained. We have to make sure that they are not rewarded for having broken the law. And one last thing on this fentanyl issue. With China, we can't take our eye off of that ball.
Right.
Yes, it's important that we secure the border. Very important, as I just said. But China is sending these chemicals to these drug cartels for them to create the fentanyl that is killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens.
What about Johnson & Johnson? What it did to us,
in an act
the
of
people
war
here,
against us, killing our citizens. We better make that priority one in our conversations with China and to try to straighten that relationship out, because if we don't, we're going to lose more and more of our citizens.
They just say shit. They just say China sending
those people
fentanyl.
back.
Of course. You'd have to.
They just say shit.
we have a lot of issues that Americans care about. Next up, we're going to talk about the crisis in education, as millions of American children are not proficient in reading or math.
Because you guys don't want to fund it. What the
Yes.
No.
You don't fund it, and then people don't do
education
good.
in red states, and
Yeah.
I know fan of blue states because blue states not good as well. But like when you look at Alabama, Mississippi, a lot of these red southern states, They're some of the least educated areas in the developed world, fam. They're not only the bottom of the United States rankings, like compared to countries like China, Singapore, Japan, many countries in Europe. Mississippi and Alabama is a joke. And we can say that it could be critical of both parties. But the people who pretend that great things are great in red states and great things are great in blue states, they're ridiculous. I think this is a replay. I just want to make sure, but I think this is when they said the show of hands.
We're showing the video right now. There it is.
Yeah, that's a replay. I just want to make
That's
sure.
a replay because I'm watching it live too.
Was there anything you want to add? I want to get you in here while they.
Okay, so while we're on commercial break here, okay, what did we learn? Vivek had somewhat a coherent, good answer in regards to Ukraine. As for the rest of them, they're all in for forever war. China is their great enemy. They're ignoring why there is a human migration crisis, why there are immigrants coming our border, why we're seeing a massive influx of refugees is because of, again, U.S. foreign policies in Central and South America and the continuation of the war on drugs. How many times does RBN or Hardlands Media or anybody else have to keep on repeating this? Because that is the real fact. Another issue, too, again, there is no solution. They're just saying, hey, tighten the border. Well, guess what? You're not going to beat the cartels because there's a demand from Mr. and Mrs. America to buy the drugs. And speaking of which, look, these corporations, yes, to some extent, maybe Johnson & Johnson was somewhat, sort of, maybe kind of held accountable for its help with the opioid crisis here. But all these large pharmaceutical corporations are keeping Americans addicted to the need for drugs, okay? And because we don't have health care, because we don't have a comprehensive health care system, all of a sudden people lose access to getting their pharmaceutical drugs. And of course, they go on the streets because there's addiction. There's an addiction crisis here in this country. No solution, just tighter regulations, more war. And of course, again, China's the big bad guy because they got a larger navy and they got more nukes now, apparently. So again, what is the difference? What are we learning here? We're learning that no matter who sits in the White House, Goldman Sachs is going to have the final seat at the table, as well as the military-industrial complex, big pharma, the prison-industrial complex, and so much more. There is nothing solving. There's no problem solving here.
Let me show this. I don't know. Did you guys know? Now, you may have known this. I didn't know Larry Elder was actually running for president. So he didn't qualify for the debate.
Yeah,
he put this video out.
That.
Let's listen.
I'm at LAX and moved to Milwaukee. I was just informed by the RNC that I'm not qualified for the debate. Why? Even though I exceeded the 40,000 individual donations required, even though I signed the pledge to support the eventual nominee, even though I submitted 3 polls where I was at least at 1%, I was informed that one of the polls is not eligible. It's the Rasmussen poll, even though it was the most accurate poll in predicting that Donald Trump would win in 2016. They say it is affiliated with Donald Trump and therefore it is not eligible. And I said to Ronna McDaniel, the chairwoman of the RNC, it's not affiliated with me. She said any poll affiliated with any candidate is not eligible. And no one told me that until just now. So we're filing an emergency to get me up there. Absolutely. BS. One of the candidates, by the way, offered a $20 gift certificate for a $1 donation. That apparently is okay. Another one offered a free, air quotes, country western concert for a $1 donation. That apparently is okay. Another one offered a commission to
We can stop it here because
I don't know if we want to. Can I just add in 2 things? First of all,
go
this
ahead.
right here is the world's smallest violin being played for him because he's not on the debate stage. And then number 2, I think pretty sure Tulsi Gabbard would say to him, "What, first time you didn't make it on the debate stage? Yeah, big effing whoop. You met qualifications, but they still didn't bring you on. Too bad. I'm crying for you."
You still have a responsibility to fix this crisis as we see it.
Absolutely. The decline in education is one of the major reasons why our country is in decline. We need education in this country, not indoctrination in this country. And in Florida, we stood up for what was right. First, we had schools open during COVID, and a lot of the problems that we've seen.
Are they talking about giving it money, though?
States lock their kids out of school for a year and a half. That was wrong. We stood up. I took a lot of fire for that. I was pilloried by the media, but I stood for our kids. And as president, I'll stand for you and your kids as well. But we have to make sure that what our schools are doing is focusing on solid academics. In Florida, we eliminated critical race theory from our K through 12 schools. We eliminated gender
I didn't know it was
ideology
there.
from our K through 12
That's
schools.
indoctrination.
And we have elevated the importance of American civics and teaching our kids about the Constitution
That's cracking
and
down
the
on
Bill of
free
Rights.
speech.
As president, I'm going to lead an effort to increase civic understanding and knowledge of our Constitution.
They're
We cannot
saying
be graduating
indoctrination,
students that don't have
propaganda.
any foundation in what it means to be an American.
Mr. Ramaswamy, Mr. Ramaswamy, hold on, Senator Scott. You've said that the Department of Education, the FBI, the ATF, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the IRS, the Department of Commerce, many of these should not exist.
That's correct.
So to the education question, how would you deal with the crisis?
So look, we have a crisis of achievement.
What
Let's
about the
shut down the head
CIA?
of the snake, the Department of Education.
The
Take that
DHS.
$80 billion, put it in the hands of parents across this country. This is the civil rights issue of our time. Allow any parent to choose where they send their kids to school. End the teachers' unions at the local level to allow public schools to compete. And then revive our national identity where every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that, frankly, every immigrant,
same
including my mother, had to
indoctrination
pass
test.
in order to become
The
a
same
citizen of
American
this
history
country.
propaganda
And the
test.
fact of the matter is, look, there's a part of education policy that also rests with the family. I didn't grow up in money, but you know the word privilege gets used a lot. Well, you know what? I did have the ultimate privilege of two parents in the house with a focus on educational achievement. And I want every kid to enjoy that. So part of the problem is we also have a federal government that pays single women more not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house, contributing to an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I think that goes hand in glove with the education crisis as well, because we have to remember education
How do
starts
you have
with the
an
family,
education
and the nuclear
crisis and
family is the
nobody's
greatest form of
talking about
governance
funding?
known to mankind.
We have a police crisis, but we talk about funding. We have a crisis
Governor Haley
of
has
terrorism. We talk about
Governor
funding.
Haley has said
But
that
education,
biological
we don't
boys
talk about
playing in
funding,
girls'
but you talk
sports
about
is
it
the
as a
women's
problem.
issue of our time. You said that even though you signed a ban on this in North Dakota, that there hadn't been one instance where it was actually needed. Are you saying that you think that too much is made of this issue?
No, I'm saying in North Dakota, we made a priority of protecting women's sports, and we've done that
So what?
in our
15,
state.
20 minutes
But I
on
would
foreign
absolutely
policy?
do that. But I do think when
Yeah,
we
and
start
50
talking about
and
education,
10
and we
10 minutes
think
on
that we're gonna have a
education,
federal
5 minutes
government, one
probably.
size fits all, we're just completely losing track of the fact that education differs by state. Some school districts are doing a fantastic job, some less so. But the idea that every school district, state, and every teacher is somehow indoctrinating people is just false. You know, when I was building a company from scratch, you know, with small town kids, and we went, you know, grew up in a town of 300, but
They
we
love
built
to
a
use these
global company
words. Building
in
from scratch,
132
small
countries
time,
with
when
over
I was young,
100,000
when I was
customers.
little.
We listened to those customers. We spent time with them. We talked to them. We did that. And as governor, well, education is one of the biggest part of a state budget. So as a governor, I shadow a student. I don't, the night before I find out the student finds out, I'm going to go to every class with them. I don't sit and lecture school districts how to do it. I
How
go
is
and
this
see
a
the experience.
debate?
And there's a lot of things that have to change. But what needs to change in
It
education
always
is
seems like he has
it's
more time
innovation.
to talk.
We're
It seems
doing
like
the
he
same way
talks
we did it
longer
50
than
years ago with
everybody else.
innovation,
But
not
he's
regulation.
using his tall
I would
man
get rid of
energy.
the Department of Education. I would give block grants to schools, but I'd give them on merit based on who's doing the most innovative. I just got done holding the 7th annual Governor's Conference on Innovation Education. You should see what the people are doing when you cut loose the red tape, get the burden off their back. They care. Teachers in this country, the vast majority of them care about those kids. They're working in low-paying jobs, and they're fighting for those kids and their families.
Governor Haley, you said that this is the women's issue of our time.
First, I'll tell you, as you know, as a parent, the one thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children
If
in
they
the classroom.
graduate high school, will they get a good
Parents
paying
need to
job?
be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again. When we do that and we allow that innovation, that's when it'll get back. And yes, I will always say I'm going to fight for girls all day long because strong girls become strong women become strong leaders, and biological boys don't belong in the locker rooms of any of our girls.
Another point on education.
We're going to start the lightning round, and the first question is going to go to you, Vice President. So this is a lightning round.
A lightning
of questions.
round.
3 answers, please.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up
President
now.
Biden will be 82 years old on Inauguration Day. Nearly 70% of Americans say that he is too old to serve. Should presidents have to pass a mental and physical test
This is the question?
in order to serve, Vice President
He's
Pence?
so unserious.
Well, it might be a good idea to have everybody in Washington, D.C. pass a mental and but,
yes or no?
30 seconds, no. The American people can make those judgments. But let me say, I'm running for president of the United States.
The American people don't
We
pick
don't need
our
a president
leaders.
who's
Goldman
too old.
Sachs does, you stupid.
And we don't need a
moron.
president who's too young. We need a president who's been
Oh
there.
my God.
Vivek is beating him, so his job was to go after
How the White
Vivek.
House
'Cause
worked,
Vivek is
how
beating him.
states worked. And on this education issue, Martha, I was fighting against No Child Left Behind when Republicans were doubling the Department of Education. I'll also shut down the federal Department of Education. And when I was
Republicans was
governor,
doubling it,
we
and that's a
doubled
bad
the
thing
size
to
of the
you.
largest school choice program in America. And we'll give school choice to every family in America when I'm in the White House.
This is a lightning round, Mr. Ramaswamy. I think you were mentioned there. You're 38. You're the youngest on the stage. You've said, and you just said, you want a civics test or public service for those under 25 to be able to vote. So the question is,
So you want
do you want a
brainwash?
mental acuity test for presidents over 75?
I believe in the people of this country to tell the difference between somebody who's an automaton and somebody who's actually a thinking agent in the White House, which we don't have in there today. And I will tell you, I want to address Vice President Pence's comment. I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward. Look at the way I've run this campaign. Going to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington, in the middle of Philadelphia, where traditional Republican candidates don't go. We have an opportunity to build a multi-ethnic working class majority to deliver a landslide. And I think I'm the only candidate in this race. Young or old,
They're just
black or
listening
white,
to our
to bring
podcast
all of
and
those
taking
voters
our
along
language.
to deliver
Working
a
class,
1980
people of color
revolution.
majority. He just said that.
Yeah.
So the problem isn't age, the problem is class.
I will answer that. I will answer
30
that.
seconds. 30 seconds.
30-second quick answer.
You guys need to get control of this debate.
Everybody's going to get a chance.
Listen, we're getting control of the debate. This is a lightning round, not rolling thunder.
Is it a
Governor
debate or
Hutchinson,
not?
you have
well,
30
is it a
seconds on
debate
the
or
same
not?
question.
On
Fox
education,
News is
first of all, look at
incompetent at this.
Arkansas. We have to compete with China.
they
I
suck.
built computer science education.
What
We
is
led
this
the
guy
nation in
talk?
computer
Why is he
science
here?
education, going from 1,100 students to 23,000 students taking it. This is how you compete with China. As President of the United States, I will make sure we go from 51% of our schools offering computer science to every school in rural areas and urban areas offering computer science for the benefit of our kids, and we can compete with China in terms of technology.
Thank you, sir. This is going to go to this is coming to you. We're trying to do a quick round of different topics here. So, Senator Scott, faith is on decline in this country. You talked about it a little bit before tonight.
What?
So, is there a role for a president of the United States in changing that? What would you do to change that?
What?
Well, our nation was founded upon
That's a
the
question?
Judeo-Christian
That is
values
a
that has made this
stupid
the greatest
goddamn
nation on
question.
God's green earth. I'm a big believer in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. Our responsibility should be to model the behavior we want others to follow. On education, the only way we change education in this nation is to break the backs of the teachers' unions. They are standing in the doorhouse of our kids, locking them into failing schools and locking them out of the greatest future they could have.
Oh my God.
As President Governor DeSantis, would you support some mandatory military service for all Americans?
I think it should be voluntary. I'm somebody that volunteered to serve, inspired by September 11th, and I deployed to Iraq.
No, they will have niggas in the street
US
so
Navy
fast,
SEALs
they
in
do
places
that.
like Fallujah, Ramadi, and it's something that I think has taught me, you know, when you go in that type of environment, anything you have, your personal agenda, you check it at the door. You go there, and it's about focusing on the mission above all else. And guys come together, and they get it done. And that's how I would view being the president of the United States. It's not about me. It's not about all these other side issues. My sole focus will be on your future and reversing this country's decline.
Okay, now for something a little out of this world, and this is for you, Governor Christie. Do you believe that the recent spike in UFO encounters?
Oh my God!
What?
If we didn't watch this at all,
okay,
if we didn't watch this at all, we would have no different information.
And
We
people
would
are
be
taking this a lot more seriously.
like, what do
And
we
we're hearing
gain
that,
from this?
You know, there are
What
things going on.
policies
that
do
people
I
are
know
aware of.
They're asking
about
the
Chris
fat
Christie
Baron.
that I didn't know before?
Governor
Like
Christie,
what?
Would you
is a
level
joke.
with the American people about what the government knows about these possible
Look, Martha,
encounters?
and especially coming from a woman from New Jersey, I think it's horrible that just because I'm from New Jersey, you asked me about unidentified flying objects and Martians. We're different, but we're not that different.
I guess that's some kind of inside joke.
Of course, the job of the President of the United States is to level with the American people about everything. The job of the President of the United States is to stand for truth. The job of the President of the United States is to be a role model for our children and our grandchildren. And so whether it was UFOs or this problem of education, and Tim's right, by the way, and I started this in 2010 by going right after the teachers' unions in New Jersey and drove them down to an all-time low popularity rating because they were putting themselves before our kids. That is the biggest threat to our country, not UFOs.
Okay. Well, coming up, we've got closing arguments. Plus, right after the debate, Hannity is live from the spin room right here in the Five-Star Forum with reaction from all the candidates as soon as they step off.
Let's read some super chats.
Let's go read some super chats. Yes.
Let's read some super
Talk about UFOs.
This is terrible, man. Terrible.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely terrible.
we were waiting for something substantive on Ukraine, and
no, that was not going to happen.
They just didn't do it. But go ahead.
Yeah, and then they refused to let them engage with each other. So it's not a debate.
Yeah.
You guys make an ass of yourselves. And they was absolutely unhinged regarding. And now I'm glad that we had the moment because and you guys watch our show. You guys can tell I was tired of intellectually lazy morons pretend that Republicans are some sort of anti-war party. Like they've been calling for the invasion of Mexico, financial and economic war with China, bullshitting over China's sovereignty with Taiwan, calling for more escalation in the South China Sea. Anyway, let's continue with the super chat. We got a few minutes here. What the hell are they talking about? Thank God I'm high right now. That's the only way I can get through this. Thank you, Thank you, 499 Funky Lollipop. Remember the Chris Christie, George W. Bush scandal? Sorry, GWB scandal. He shut down lanes for 3 days, including on the anniversary of September 11th terrorist attacks. So I guess it was
Chris Christie.
Yeah, well said. Thank
Bridgegate.
you,
Bridgegate.
This is Eric. The Duran covered how Biden White House to Saudi Arabia dished bricks to get nuclear weapons program. Remember to vote who, no matter who. So that's Biden. I saw this story. That's something we'll cover later. Advocating for a nuclear Saudi Arabia. So, very stable president. Like this is the kind of stuff they says Trump would do, right? Thank you for 499 Sam. Simplest answer: most people supporting Cornel are choosing between staying home and voting Green. Nobody's voting Biden. The DSA is. So we try and grab as many people to reject voting to the two-party system as possible. But there are a lot of establishment boomers, suburbanites that they love the red-blue nonsense. And we look at this debate here, and like Vivek is trying to make it about age, how we need new leadership and young leadership. This is what I mentioned earlier.
He's not wrong.
It's not about age. You guys represent the same class interests. You guys represent the same donors. Vivek is a multimillionaire, capitalist business owner. He had the same interests as Mike Pence, and he will govern as such. So they having this false conversation about age that means nothing because they share the same class interests. I'd rather have an old motherfucker who is class loyal to the working class than a Vivek Ramaswamy any day, right? But any last thoughts because they about to get started. But so CJ Kidd, any last thoughts before they get started again on closing statements?
I think, again, this once again adds fuel to our statement of why we got to break away from the two-party system, because no solutions have been offered. Just statements and people trying to be tougher than the next person. If you vote Democrat or Republican, you're supporting the two-party system. Break away from it.
And you notice how there's no conversation about the material needs of the working class. But go ahead, CJ.
Nope.
No, just that's part of what I was getting to. Is like, this is like, I thought the Democrat debates were terrible and debates in the past. This has got to be one of the like policy-free debates.
Yeah, so
I've seen. Like, it's already policy-free, but I'm saying like policy-free is usually 30% policy. This is like 8% policy,
bro. Especially considering the time, CJ. They didn't even talk about the BRICS summit.
No
BRICS summit conversation.
They didn't talk about BRICS summit, de-dollarization. Like, none of this stuff. They didn't. I mean, even the stuff that they would want to even talk about, they didn't really even go into. And it's funny because I think maybe they didn't go into Ukraine as much because they are having to walk a crazy line here.
Yeah, exactly. CJ.
Their audience are saying, y'all better stop funding this fucking war. But their donors and the people who own them want them to push the war. So you saw it even in the questioning where they're asking it. But the candidates were able to say, I don't want to answer that because we know the audience doesn't want to hear about this. Yep. They don't want to talk about us funding this. That's why it was so awkward, too, for Ron DeSantis, because he was trying to thread that line. And then Vivek just came in and was like, fuck that. No, I ain't for this shit. And it kind of made him look not as he wanted to appear in that question.
It was a really unserious and disappointing segment because Fox News don't want certain things to be said about that war, and that's why they fired Tucker, because they are playing the role of the establishment. So I think they purposely fumbled the ball on that segment, try their best to limit debate and conversation and education because that it serves their interest. But let's get to closing statements here.
It would have been better if Trump was there. It would have been more entertaining.
In his pitch to get to the Oval Office, President Reagan called America the shining city on a hill.
Oh my God, Reagan!
Surprise.
So in your closing statement tonight, please tell American voters why you are the person who can inspire this nation to a better day. These are 45 seconds, and we begin with
vomitous.
I understand why America's hurting. Biden's inflation is choking us.
Who is this guy?
I grew up in a small town.
The dinosaur version of the tall man.
Freshman in high school.
Who man?
My mom, widow of 3, went back to work. Every job I had growing up was one where I took a shower at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day.
So you don't got no calluses on your hands
because the fentanyl pouring into this country. Our economy is being crushed by Biden's energy policies, which are raising the cost of every product you buy, not just the gasoline at the pump. One thing that
Doug Burnham, 3 hours in, I finally learned his name.
I'll get this economy sprinting, not crawling like it is right now. And I would say that other thing is for sure, when I'm on a horseback in the Badlands of North Dakota.
What did they be saying, man?
And when you can almost see beyond that horizon, you can see that this great country, our future is unlimited. But we've got to focus on innovation, not regulation. We've got to cut the red tape. We got to drive ourselves forward. The way we win the Cold War with China is by growing our economy and through innovation.
You're done.
And as
Wrap it up.
I will bring out the best of America. I will improve every American life.
Well, we hope you're back on your horse soon.
We still don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, get on your horse and mosey on off.
No one knows.
Our nation is in trouble, and it's in trouble because of failed leadership. And the solution is not 4 more years of Joseph Biden. The solution is not 4 more years of Donald Trump. The solution is new leadership that can bring bold ideas to America and to bring out the best of America. A president's number one responsibility is to bring out the best of our people. That's what Ronald Reagan did. And he did it with optimism and hope for our country, with consistent conservatism. That's exactly what I bring. As president, I'll bring out the best of America in terms of individual responsibility, building our economy, in terms of securing our border, enforcing the rule of law. I'll bring out the best of America in terms of our national character, our faith, and our hope for the future. Join in this
They want to
fight.
redirect red voters to focus on
.com.
this stupid bullshit.
Thank you, Senator Scott.
Absolutely. Great comment,
Thank you. I was a disillusioned young man growing up in a single-parent household,
Boo!
mired in poverty. I wonder if the American dream was real for a kid like me. I can stand before you today and say the dream is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. I had the good fortune of a mom who worked 16-hour days, making sure we have food on our tables.
You're exactly who
She taught me that
WB
if
Du
you're
Bois
able-bodied in
wanted to
America, you work. If you take out a loan, you pay it back. If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. And if God made you a man,
not if you're a war
criminal
criminal.
against men.
Not if you're a war
right
criminal.
here. This is none but a
I'm
coon.
Tim Scott. I'm asking you for your vote. And if you're in Iowa, I'm asking you to caucus for me. You can go to votetimscott.com for more information or to make a contribution.
All right, whatever.
Governor Christie.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Martha. Look, everybody on this stage wants to be the next president of the United States.
You're not.
And the
right.
only way that's going to happen
You're
is
not
if we
one of
beat
them.
Joe Biden. I'm the only one on this stage who's ever beaten a Democratic incumbent in an election. I did it in a deep blue state, being outspent 3-1. Beating a Democratic incumbent is not easy. The last Democratic incumbent president who was defeated was Jimmy Carter. And he was defeated by a conservative governor from a blue state
Oh
who knew
my
how to
God.
get results,
They keep
who
bringing
stood for
up
the
this
truth,
fucking clown,
who
Ronald
cared
Reagan.
about accountability,
Yeah, they got to talk about
and
Ronnie
stood
Boy.
strong and hard against waste. Those are the very things that I did in my 8 years as governor of New Jersey, and it's exactly what I'll do as
Bridgegate,
president of
too.
the United States. Believe me, the Democrats want some other nominee who's never beaten the Democratic incumbent. I'm the one who can win this race, and if you give me the chance, I will restore our country by winning it.
Thank you. Governor
Bro, you're
Haley.
running to be on MSNBC, fam. You're not fooling anyone.
Several weeks ago, I dropped my husband, Michael, a combat veteran from Afghanistan,
Boo!
Oh
off
my
at 4
God.
a.m. for another year-long deployment. I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they had never been, all in the name of protecting America. If they are willing to
That's
protect
not
us
why they
from
went
there,
there.
we
They went there
should
for
be
the
willing
oil.
to fight for
Trump
America
said they
here.
were there for the oil.
I will beat Joe
baby.
Biden,
That's why we're
and
there.
he knows that. I will strengthen our economy, and we'll bring this inflation down. We will put transparency in the classroom. We will secure our borders. We will have the backs of our law enforcement, and we will make sure we have a strong national security. And once again, we will make sure we have an America that is strong and proud. We have a country to save. Join us. Go to NikkiHaley.com, and let's get it done.
Vice President Pence.
We got a lot of plants in the crowd.
Thank you, Brad and Martha, for this evening. It's an honor to be here. Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad.
Man, he's terrible.
Disastrous withdrawal from
He
Afghanistan.
talks like Clint Eastwood. He
war on
talks like
energy.
he.
Don't
like,
compare
runaway
Clint
spending
Eastwood to
launched
that.
the worst
Clint Eastwood had charisma.
crisis at our southern border.
Even
Assault
talking to that
on our
empty
values
chair.
and
But he's
liberties.
just like so
The American
like
people have had
Western,
enough.
like an old Western.
But I know we can bring
movie.
it back. But different times call for different leadership. The Republican Party owes the American people a choice. Proven leadership at the national level that knows how to move a conservative agenda forward. We proved in the Trump-Pence years you can turn this country around faster than you can imagine.
Who did this work
And I
on?
have faith we will again. Because I have faith in the American people. The good, decent, hardworking, faith-filled, idealistic people of this country. And I have faith
Wrap it
that
up.
God is not done with America yet.
Oh,
And if we
God.
will renew our faith in one
Man, this
another
is
and renew our faith in Him who has ever guided this nation since we arrived on these wilderness shores, I know the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come.
Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy.
I was born in 1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776.
You don't share my class
and
interest.
this is our moment to revive those common ideals.
Make no mistake,
is
this
real.
guy is a coon.
There are two
also,
genders.
I don't know what the
Fossil
word is
fuels
for
are
his
a
race. He
requirement
is
for human
absolutely a
prosperity.
coon. This guy right
Reverse
here.
racism is racism. An
He
open
is.
border is not a border.
See,
Parents
reverse
determine
racism is racism. You see
of their
that? He's a
children.
coon.
The nuclear family is the greatest form of
That's what
governance
white people
known to
wanna hear
man.
people of color
Capitalism
say, is
lifts
that.
us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight.
Revolution? How the fuck is he using that word?
Governor DeSantis.
DeSantis.
Governor?
Yeah.
This is our time for choosing. We will send Joe Biden back to his basement and we will reverse the decline of this country. I'm a blue collar kid. I work minimum wage jobs to be able to make ends meet. I understand the importance of the American dream, and I know how that's slipped away from so many millions of Americans. We'll restore it. I'm a veteran who served in Iraq. I know what it means to put service above self. I'm also a dad and a husband to 6'5" and 3-year-old. I understand the importance of protecting parents' rights and the well-being of our children. In Florida, we showed it could be done. I made promises and I delivered on all of those promises. 2024 is make or break. We're not getting a mulligan, no excuses. I will get the job done. And as your president, I will not let you down. God bless you all.
Well, he's the only one who finished at 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Get this shit on my screen. Get this shit off my screen. Get the I'm so fucking
completely
happy
no substance at all. Didn't talk about any real
Ass.
subject with any level of like depth or anything like that. Not even their own. Like they didn't even go into taxes and how to, you know, they didn't even go into that. They didn't really even go into the border. They didn't really go into anything with any level of substance at all. Not even their own issues.
You had Larry Elder, who was complaining he wasn't part of this debate. A ton of people complaining not part of this debate. And like, what would have changed if
Nothing.
Larry any of it? They sounded exactly the fucking same.
We needed Trump to entertain us and break all these people down and bully them. We needed that. That's what we needed. That's the only way this thing would have been more entertaining. I would have wanted to see that, but obviously,
yeah. To your point, kid. To your point, kid. My guess would be I can't. Who can predict the poll? My guess would be Trump definitely won this fucking debate.
Oh, of course.
Vivek is the second. Vivek one among the people who attended, but that doesn't mean much. It doesn't say much.
That doesn't mean much at all.
He wasn't the best among the crew.
I'd actually say
they all were fucking clowns, right?
But go ahead, kid. Who's better to you?
Well, okay. So obviously, number one, let's see where this Trump conversation was Tucker Carlson, because I gotta break that down for tomorrow morning's show. But obviously, Trump is probably the winner because they did talk about him. Vivek is number two. Everybody else was mediocre and uninspiring and brought nothing to the table. The biggest loser of them all were the Fox News moderators because they couldn't keep any of their candidates in line. No one followed the rules. No one followed the goddamn rules. They allowed the candidates to keep on yelling over each other. They were trying to tone police the audience. Fox News. Trump is right. You guys are weak.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Weak.
Yeah, Fox News definitely is a loser. Another loser is definitely Morning Joe. They're about to be an absolute fucking shambles.
Yeah.
The Morning Joe candidate. Christie got rocked. He got fucking obliterated by the crowd. The moderator had to save him and bail him out. He was clearly shook. Like the narrative coming from Joe Scarborough and the liberal class that Christie is this bulldozer. He this wrecking ball.
Yeah.
They're gonna destroy the Trump appeasers. Was completely proven false today. And remember, I predicted this the last few streams ago when I said, do you think these people keep pretending that Christie is this great debater? As soon as someone say you're running to be an MSNBC anchor, it's over, and he got a big applause. Vivek is trending number 2 as of like a few minutes ago. I gotta go soon, so we didn't do more post analysis.
Me
later.
too. Yeah, I was just about to say, I gotta get out of here.
Trending number 2, and I saw that clip among the Republican Twitter of him talking about Christie, MSNBC. Christie got fucking buried. Morning Joe's gonna be in fucking shambles. They're gonna try their best to spin this. And I'd be surprised if Post said the opposite. I'm willing to admit if I'm wrong. Like if Christie go on the surge, I will be shocked, fam. I will be absolutely shocked.
Not at all. I think he's gonna go down.
Nah.
But go ahead, CJ. We can wrap up with CJ. You get CJ.
Yeah, because I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. CJ, his final word.
So what I think is the same as you. Trump won because he wasn't there, and that's what made him win to me, because this was very subpar. Vivek is the one who has the most memorable one-liners, and that's the reason why I would say He won even, and some of the points he made, I think were pretty good points. I think the loser of this is policy. The loser of this, if you thought you were watching this to figure out who you wanted to vote, you are the loser because you didn't learn anything new on this. I'm coming, sweetheart. That's my daughter telling me.
Yeah, we'll wrap up. So,
but
yeah, we'll play by ear, CJ. But we probably do analysis of the Trump Tucker interview very soon. We play by ear, and we'll schedule that. But I want to get wrapped up. CJ, anything you want to close us out with? We can wrap up.
I don't think you'll be on in another 20 minutes because that's all it takes me to eat dinner. But if you're still on, I'll get back on. If not, I'll be watching.
Oh, no, I'm gonna wrap up. I gotta go too.
Oh, you gotta go too. So then never mind. We'll cover the other stuff when we can, everybody. But that's it. I'll pass it to you guys. I will see you guys later. Thanks for joining, Kit.
Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you, Kit, for joining me.
No problem.
Make sure you guys subscribe to Heartlands Media.
If I can, go ahead, Kit. If I can, I got one special announcement. Tune in for tomorrow morning, Thursday's morning show. It's going to be a huge one. Jimmy Dore is going to be joining me in the morning. So if you're going to work, tune in because Jimmy Dore is going to be with us on the first hour. So shout out to Jimmy Dore, Chicago's very own. He had a great show at Zany's. So I'm going to leave you alone because I know you got to get up out of here too. I'll see y'all.
Yeah, make sure you guys check that out.
All right, bye-bye.
I'm definitely going to watch that. So have a good one, guys.
Rock and roll.